Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Logical, Plausible, Probable. I'm your host, John Maddox, and tonight we're having another stream you just won't want to miss. If you got what it takes, click that link, or prepare yourself, for this arena is not for the weak. Now, let the mental combat begin, but always make sure your arguments are LPP. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, here to a quasi-impromptu after show for those of you coming over from earlier tonight's debate over on SFT between Kent and David. Hypothetically, that debate was supposed to be on Evolution on Trial. However, I don't think that the debater was actually kind of comprehending what that debate was actually about. It was kind of weird. I don't know. It was interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing people's comments, discussion, and overall thoughts on tonight's debate. Hopefully we will all have a good time and enjoy this. For those of you who are coming in for the first time, in these debates, there's 45 minutes or so. We'll kind of do discussion. Tell us, if you joined the panel, tell us what you liked, didn't like, best one-liners, best comebacks, overall thoughts about who won, lost, etc. And then after that, as more people join, we'll kind of go into general discussion about different stuff, what people want to talk about. And then if new people come in, we will kind of stop talking about whatever we've been discussing, and then we'll shift to that person, let them give their thoughts on the debate, and then we can go back to the general discussion. We already got one backstage, so without further ado, actually, let me give some shout outs real quick. Everybody is in the side chat. We got Young Earth Creation. What's up, Matt? How you doing? Luca is at the house. The one and only Doki Doki has been slinging super stickers again. Much appreciated, sir. He was driving people over from SFT's channel. It was amazing. Appreciate you very much. Bubblegum Guns here. We got members. We got Keith Colvin is here. Of course, Doki Doki is a member. Cheryl's a member. She's doing here as well. Thank you so much, Cheryl. How you doing? Let's see what else is in the side chat. I think I saw SFT earlier. Face 777 is here. Man, we got a bunch of Sunflower. Oh, I haven't seen Sunflower a long time. What's up? What's up? How you doing? Sparrow's in the side chat. Well, I'm looking forward to everybody having a great conversation. Feel free to join the panel. Link is pinned, and we will have a good time. Now, without further ado, the one and only Otangelo is with us. What's up, Otangelo? How you been? Haven't talked to you in a while, brother. What's going on? What do you think about tonight's debate?
Yes, hello, John. I actually have not seen the debate, but I would like to share with you about an investigation which I am doing in regards of the origin of viruses.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. And just so you know, tonight's debate, don't waste your time. It was one of the most boring debates of all time, but I'll get into that in a minute. Go ahead.
You know, the quest of the origin of viruses is something which is completely off the radar, right? And I'm investigating it, and it's enormously interesting. And what is especially interesting is that peer-reviewed science papers, they are basically confessing that viruses do not share a common ancestor. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I mean, I was aware of, in the origin of life research, I was aware that they thought that, one of the hypotheses is that, viruses came first. But I was unaware of the point you just made.
Yeah. And that is enormously interesting because you know that one of the main tenets of evolutionary theories is that all life forms share a common ancestor, right? And of course, if that would not be true, if the origin of just one common ancestor is so extremely unlikely, imagine if there would be several ancestors. That would play in the hands of creationists, right? So that's why they are so desperate in holding to that main tenet that all life forms have a common ancestor. But if viruses don't share a common ancestor, and I don't know if you know this, there are some giant viruses which are bigger than bacteria.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Yeah, there are megaviruses which have about 2.5 million nucleotides. That's about double the size of the smallest bacteria. And it doesn't have a common ancestor.
Well, I'm just going to guess that since that would challenge, if you actually thought about it from an ontological perspective, the implications of that data will be ignored from the general consensus or the publicly presented general consensus, that's given to the this quote unquote science related magazines and such. Oh, well, hey, so we're just figuring out that kind of looks like viruses don't have a common ancestor. So not really sure how that happened. So, well, I mean, and the thing that always gets me about that on the whole viruses came first thing is, so viruses don't self-replicate, but they came first. That's never really made so much sense to me. But
well, they have 3-4 different hypotheses about what eventually happened, but they have come to the conclusion that the viruses originated in the RNA world. That means prior to the last universal common ancestor. And that's also pretty interesting Now the question is, you have, the big distinction between life and viruses is that viruses, they have a capsid, which is kind of like the envelope upon which they protect the RNA and DNA, which is their genome. And that doesn't have a parallel in the living. So these are separate gene products.
Well,
And
and they also had to have somehow figured out how to hijack the early ribosomes
yeah, and
before
you know what
before
is
we get
interesting, John? If we are talking that evolution is about survival of the fittest, but viruses are about killing life, bacteria, and hijacking them because they kill bacteria. But the thing is that without viruses, there is no life. If we would remove all viruses on Earth, we would probably live for about 2 days and then everyone else would die too.
Yeah, it is interesting how there's the interconnectivity of overall survivability. You know, something I've been contemplating lately is the rapidly growing evidence in favor of the symbiotic nature of just about every life form on this planet in some
Absolutely.
way, shape, form, or fashion,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that there are chicken and egg problems going from whether it be, you know, the data or the DNA or the genetic data versus when do you have the polypeptides strands that can or the enzymes that can or the the RNA enzymes that can somehow self-replicate, or the early ribosome core RNA, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, so we have to have that first, or the information that's going to be replicated. You know, all
Well,
those different things, and then it just in the chicken and egg problem just continues going up and up and up and up. At every level, there's chicken and egg problems.
let me
The
give you another example. Even in ecology, we have the chicken and egg problems. Like, for example, you need to fix nitrogen, which becomes nitrate or ammonia, which is one of the essential atoms for DNA, RNA, and amino acids. And what does that fixation is an enzyme in bacteria, which is called nitrogenase. And in order to have that nitrogen available, you need the nitrogen cycle. And in order to have that cycle, you need a several different numbers of bacteria which work in an interdependent fashion together to cycle the nitrogen in the environment. So what we are seeing here is that that chicken and egg problem extends not only from in cells, but to ecology, where you need entire environments in an interdependence with life forms. So that means that everything had to start all at once, created by God right from the beginning, because otherwise they have a hard problem to explain where the nitrogen came from in a prebiotic earth.
no,
And
so that's a very good point. Well, and let's just be honest. There is a never-ending plethora of problems that they just brush over and then claim that we're the ones that are, you know, blinded by faith. You know, oh, you have incredulity of the plausibility, but we can just dismiss that because your incredulity has no justification. You know,
you
it's like,
know,
well, I'm giving you a list. Here is all of the reasons that I have incredulity about the plausibility of this. And you're saying I'm presenting nothing in favor of my position, that the only way this is solvable is through the actions of an intelligent agent. Okay. I guess you need some, you know, hearing aids or something, because I've repeated myself over and over again, and your denial of the existence of a plausible explanation doesn't mean that it's not a plausible explanation or that it can be ignored. But before we continue on that, Angela, we get let's let Dan, you're up next. Then Sunflower. Dan, what do you think about tonight's debate?
I didn't stay around very long. I
You
was there
worried,
at the
Dan,
beginning.
were you worried about falling asleep?
No, I just did. Well, I probably would if I'd stayed, but I wasn't worried about it when I left. I just didn't think anything was getting accomplished. I know what Kent's going to say, and I don't think this guy was ever going to say anything, the other guy. So I just did some other work. But it was pretty, that's the worst I've seen by far.
Yeah,
It was totally unmatched. It was a mismatch, the mismatch from hell, you might say.
So Dan, so since you have been on oxygen for months now,
Right.
I'm going to grant that you have a little bit of knowledge on the subject. Would you agree or disagree with me that it appeared that David was really needing some oxygen?
You know, I made a comment in the chat that he sounds an awful lot like me.
Because I don't know if you saw, I don't know if you watched long enough, but if you looked at him, he was like gasping for air. You could see
I
it.
know.
And
I really thought he was going to have a heart attack one time, but yeah, I was concerned about him at the beginning, and then I realized that's just the way he is. You know, I mean, I know he's old, and he's probably been through hell like most of us, and maybe he did have throat problems. I don't know, but he talked a lot like me. You know, my voice sounds somewhat like a gravel truck. You know, on a good day or maybe a bad day. And his sounded very similar to mine. Like, yeah, he had been on oxygen, or because being on oxygen would cause my voice to go nuts. But not just the oxygen, the coughing, the inhalers they give you, those are vicious things. They're very expensive too, but thanks for the VA, I don't have to pay so much. But they play havoc with your throat. But the oxygen itself, maybe it wouldn't affect my throat. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, that's who's the other Hurricane? How you doing?
No, so Hurricane's in side tower now. He's trying to get Otangelo to debate
Oh, I see.
Forrest Vicali or Vicali, however you pronounce his name. And they're chatting about. I was bringing his message. Oh, Sunflower's literally. It was about to be Sunflower's trying to talk, and he dropped out. Sunflower, get back in.
Otangelo, by the way, I liked your article in Evolution News and Science on the eye. That was what, about 2 years ago or something?
Yeah, that was my last one because of Discovery thought it was such a bad article that they don't want me to write for them anymore.
You kidding?
Yeah.
I thought it's a pretty good article. Well, anyway, I thought there was a lot. Well, maybe I'm not a good judge. Pardon?
Otangelo, I wait. Number one, I didn't know you'd had an article published in Evolution News, and two,
3 of them.
They banned you?
At least.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. At least they don't want me to write any article anymore for them.
Oh.
Interesting. What was their justification for that?
It was that I was not quoting all my sources.
Oh, you weren't referencing them?
Not all of them.
Jonathan Wells does that all the time.
And one was from and one was from Evolution for Dummies.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Were you able to like publish without review back then, or see? I don't know what's the problem. Did they review it beforehand?
Yes, they review everything before they publish it.
Yeah, I expected that.
Yeah, so
I didn't see anything wrong with that eye article. I really liked it, but primarily because I read things I'd never heard seculars say before. Like one was about how the complexity. I don't remember the exact wording, but the complexity was. Now they're finding complexity was. Darwin was mystified by the eye, and the modern molecular complexity hasn't changed things. We're still mystified about the eye spot a little bit, or the eye anyway.
Yeah, in reality, what happened is this: that I was investigating the origin of eyes for a public presentation here in Brazil, and then I used it, and so I didn't really care about referencing my
Oh, I
sources,
see.
and then I just used it since I thought it was such a good investigation because I really went into the details. Even Jonathan Wells, he wrote, I think, one or two books, and he wrote about the topic, but even he didn't go that deep into the details of vision, while I went into really the details, and that's what you read actually in the article.
Yeah,
But
I
anyway,
was
yeah.
that why they banned you? Because you left out some references?
Well, that was one of the things that they criticized.
Well, maybe they should have fired the reviewers.
Well, I mean, I sent them other articles afterwards, and it was just the main reviewer, let's say. I don't want to say his name. And he just, it was basically his decision to not taking any articles of mine anymore. So
Interesting.
wow.
it was pretty
Okay.
frustrating,
Yeah,
and it was very very. It took months until they published the two articles. It was two articles that they published on Evolution News. You
Oh,
can
I
look
see. I
it up.
see. I remember 3 by your name. Does that sound right?
Well, they mentioned me in that participation of mine in Fortaleza here in Brazil, where I had a speech on the evolution of the eyes. So Jonathan Wells, he came here to Brazil and he went to that congress too, and they mentioned my name there. But articles, they published two of me, of
Oh,
mine.
well, I somehow must have been somebody with a similar name. I just sort of. Well, anyway, okay, you get 2. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Real quick.
yeah,
Wow.
that
I'm
was
sorry to
Guys,
hear
pretty
that.
guys, hang on a second. Sunflower's been waiting patiently. Let's let him get in, then we can get back to the conversation. Sunflower, what's up, man? Long time, haven't talked to you. How you been? Welcome to the stream. And did you see the madness debate or the sleeping debate tonight? If yes, what'd you think? If no, what's on your mind?
What's up? Did not see the debate actually. I had asked for. I came into the stream a little bit early. I said, "Does anyone have a link to the debate? This is an after show for it." No one posted it. I guess I wasn't subscribed to the person that did it. Anyway, I've seen enough of these debates. I think I have a general understanding of how they go. I'm not trying to change the topic at all. So whatever you guys are just talking about, get back to it. But I do want to briefly address Luca in the chat and why I changed my avatar to this. Question I raised for Dr. Dan once didn't have a good answer, and then the question is, how are you guys? How are these Evo atheists so comfortable in just saying, yeah, every single species ever is basically programmed to reproduce, or at the very least, eat food, survive, and try to reproduce. And then, but humans, some of them, as Luca just admitted in the chat, care more about things like knowledge and truth, and they'll actually admit that they've somehow escaped or circumvented what evolution demands that they should be forced and compelled to try to do on the most fundamental level of their being, which is reproduce or whatever. And these people yet are just like, no, I don't really care about that. I just want to go after like truth and science and chemistry and math. Well, congratulations. You are a transcendent being. Then these people are admitting that they've transcended evolution. And yet they also flippantly in the next sentence dismiss the concept of God. And that's why I put the dog doing this position. If anyone saw a dog doing this, would you not immediately say, but it's either that's not a dog or that's like a human in a dog's body? Like you would immediately recognize that's not how most dogs act. And okay, so think about a human. If a human is just a very evolved animal, maybe there's something special about us humans. Yeah, maybe we are created in God's image. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail. Thanks for having me on. Just wanted to bring that up because it was the last few minutes in the chat that Luca responded. I wanted to sort of dish that back to him. So thank you.
There is a Mimi where you have a fish walking out of the water and then evolving, and every time it evolves, it says survival of the fittest, and the next survival of the fittest. And then the end of the line, you have a man, and he says, "What is this all about?"
Right, exactly. Right, like so. It's just interesting to hear other people, like say, "Oh no, I don't care about the thing that I've been biologically engineered to evolve to only care about, which is reproduce." Right? Like we all agree that any species besides human is valuing survival and reproduction over everything else in all circumstances, with no exceptions, unless they're of course like ill, like severely diseased, or in some way like missing part of their brain, and like maybe they can't even differentiate like stuff from other stuff. But obviously, like a healthy, normal, functioning life form is at the most fundamental level trying to reproduce. Then humans come along, like Luca and like other Evo atheists, and they're like, "Oh, I just one day decided to wake up and like not do the thing that I should be completely imprisoned by, due to the fact that at the most fundamental level of my DNA, I'm compelled to only do this thing, and everything else I do is it should just be a kind of convoluted roundabout way to achieve this thing. Like like the same way that the peacock does the fancy feather dance. Is that because the peacock likes that, or is that because that's it evolved for that to be like a mating ritual?
And
And
you
yet,
have, and you don't
and
have it at the lowest level where you don't have yet evolution. Why would molecules want to become alive?
oh yeah, well that's a whole different discussion. That's equally absurd. But I'm still looking for an answer for how someone can casually just say like that they, in their intelligible mind consciousness, they don't care about reproducing, and yet they also don't think that they're a transcendent life form. Like where did the disconnect happen? Okay, I don't know. That blows my mind that they think that they're the mere product of chaotic evolution, and yet they've transcended the need, the compulsion to reproduce. That is a special idea, but hey, I'm not surprised anymore.
Well, at this point, the concept that in the end times, man rather believe lies in the truth and worship the creature rather than the creator it's beyond apparent at this point. I mean, it's being done in plain sight. The dogmatic positions people take to somehow justify the implausibility of their worldview. I mean,
100%, 100%.
It's everywhere. It's not even. And what's really amazing to me is that they don't even. The vast majority of them don't even seem to grasp or acknowledge that if some of their fundamental tenets are false, then their entire model collapses. It's like,
right.
You have so many weak points in your models, like so many weak points that just, if this is wrong, everything about it implodes. Everything implodes. But no, let's just ignore all that. But real quick before we get to that, Stephen has joined us. What's up, Stephen? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. How you doing? Did you see the debate? If yes, what'd you think? If no, what's on your mind?
Unfortunately, I saw it. It was pretty much Kent Hovind pretty much sticking to his scripts, and I forget the other guy's name because the whole performance was extremely forgettable.
It was. It was. It was.
Yeah, I don't know what he was trying to prove. I mean, he was just throwing stuff up on the screen and complaining because he didn't have enough time to throw more garbage out in 90 million different directions. And I caught something where he said that they now supposedly have photos of stars that were had formed and birthed or something. I've not heard of that yet.
Now, see, that whole position is a categorically false one. They have not observed stars form. They see some gas clouds that they think are in the process of becoming stars, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion have they actually observed stars form. And I've heard people for the last 2 years make that assertion, and then when you actually go down the rabbit hole, It's, well, no, they're hypothesizing that, oh, this would be the stage that would be a per their model. Oh, well, if we see something kind of like this, then that means that this must be how stars formed. But they have
You
not
know,
actually seen it happen.
you know, we will have big surprises with the James Webb, with the new telescope, because they will look into the deepest and most distant galaxies. And if the theory is true, then we should find at the most distant places the least developed galaxies. But we already know that even at the closest to the Big Bang, there are already developed galaxies, and that contradicts Big Bang theory. And that confirms that the universe was created by God, fully formed and fully stretched out as it is in Genesis, with even the most galaxies fully developed right from the beginning. And I think with that new telescope, they will be surprised about finding these much more clear pictures of these galaxies fully developed where they shouldn't be.
I was amateur astronomer for many decades. I bought my first telescope when I was about 20. It was an 8-inch Meade reflector and motor drive. In those days, you had to carry around, lug around a real heavy battery. A lot different now, but it was very, very nice. But once when it was years later when they came out with the first Hubble photos of the deep space galactic clusters, and I said, "Wow, somebody's got some explaining to do." No evolutionary model predicts that at all.
Right. So
Anyway,
you confirm what I am saying, right?
pardon?
You are confirming what I am saying. We shouldn't find fully developed galaxies right after the Big Bang. They should look very young.
Very young, yes, and not all big ones all clustered together either. I mean, gosh,
right.
it might not even be a cluster. There may be more on, behind them that we can't see yet. I mean, it's just unbelievable how many galaxies out there. I used to get really thrilled to show people like the Hercules globular cluster and rings of Saturn. I got to see Halley's Comet when it came through, and first time and the only time my mother ever went up on the top of the mountains to see the telescope because she wanted to see Halley's Comet, and she was thrilled. But that was the old days. Now it's just so much stuff out there. It's just mind-boggling.
But they just throw it below the table, and nobody talks about it because that confirms our new young Earth creationist model.
Yeah, God nonchalantly created some stars and then stretched out the heaven. Oh, wow, it's amazing what he's done. I mean, beyond amazing.
Have any of the scientists yet figured out how they have the millions and billions of years, but yet the Milky Way galaxy still has distinct spiral arms left?
They'll make something up. Just wait. If they haven't already.
They
always come up with a good story.
The thing that's always been, I just find extraordinarily fascinating. Well, the atheists, the hardcore atheists on the philosophical side say, well, if I can come up with a hypothesis, that alternative hypothesis, then yours is wrong, right? Yours is false if I can come up with an alternative, right? And then, but on the flip side, the Evos say it doesn't matter if you can come up with an alternative, i.e., intelligent design. It is wrong. It's like, have you guys thought about that? You have like the reverse logic on both sides, right? And it's like from the philosophical side, you can debunk it, but not on the other. Interesting. And methinks you may be a little bit dogmatic and not actually being as having the critical thinking that you claim that you're not executing the critical thinking skills that you claim you are. Because if you were, you would have thought through and recognized how stupid and illogical that position, those claims are.
The first rule of evolution is their predictions always fail. Their icons are always going to fall off their pedestal. That's the second rule. And it just nothing about it's true. Not one thing about it is true. I just can't imagine. Well, most people, I think Michael Behe said it correct. He said all the scientists that believe in the other evolution think the other scientist has the evidence. That's true. That's the way I was. I never questioned it for a long time. I mean, most of my life, never questioned it because I just assumed it was true. And then it was just really an accident almost. A friend asked me he must have known something. He's another engineer, a real good friend of mine. He must have seen something. But anyway, he asked me, he said, take a look at the geologic column, see what you think. And I said, sure, okay. Well, and I did. And just almost immediately, well, not like 2 seconds, but very quickly, I realized that they looked like flood deposits. I mean, they're all flat. They were laminated. I didn't see hardly any erosion in a lot. I mean, there's erosion in some places, but there's an awful lot of layers that just don't say it. They're just stacked right on top of each other like pancakes, like there were never any water or wind or weather on top of them between the beds. And these beds were perfectly sorted, like you have a bunch of sand about 300 feet, and then you got 300 feet of shell. And I mean, well, I said, gosh, well, what's up? What's going on? That's when I abandoned evolution.
John, I'm leaving the stream, but before, I just want to quick give you an argument which I recently stumbled upon, which I thought it was pretty great. Someone asked an atheist, do you believe that Christ resurrected? And he said, no. And then the following up question was, but you believe that non-matter can create life, right?
That's a good one.
I mean, it is the root reality of their worldview, and that's what always gets me in terms of and people make this point all the time, right? Like at the end of the day, you're reaching a conclusion based on conclusions theoretically, you should be reaching your conclusion based on analysis of the evidence for or against your end conclusion. But either way, at the end of the day, you're making a educated guess or gamble in terms of which one is correct. Except that the Evos claim that they're not having any kind of faith in their position. It's rather interesting, but we'll appreciate you joining us, so Tangelo, as always. How's before you go, how goes the book on Origin of Life?
Well, I can give you the link and you can have a look. Actually, I'll do the following. I have it in PDF, the first 200 pages. I'll send it to you per email. Okay,
appreciate it. Yeah, I'll definitely look. I was perusing through it you'd send me the link, and I've been looking through it. Actually, will you send me the PDF and the link to where you have it on your website, or have you taken it off?
Yeah, I'll send you both.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.
See you, Angelo.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Tangelo. I never get your name right. Sorry.
George, thanks so much for the $20 super chat. It says fruits and veggies for the epic man. Hi, Jono. So George and I occasionally chat about the necessity of stocking up on food for the coming collapse of civilization. And so George's been very generous in helping me to stockpile some of my food via his super chats. It's much appreciated.
I've got shelves full already.
Yeah, it's coming. How about you, Sunflower? You've been stocking up, even though you're a meat-eating vegan?
All right, I was actually just in my kitchen. What was the question?
The question was, have you been stocking up on food for the coming apocalypse?
No, I mean I accept what's coming in the near future. I'm not much of a what's the word?
Prepper.
Yeah, I'm not much of one, but I admire and commend you guys for doing it. I'm just winging it at this point. I don't recommend that. But that's all I got.
Okay, look, bro, you don't have to become a full scale prepper. Like, you just need to get ahead of the curve, because
The problem is, honestly, this is a real problem, and I don't know. Maybe you have a solution. I'm not prepared to kill to defend canned soup if I have it. How do I engineer my brain so that if the hooligans and thugs that didn't buy canned soup come at my door with picketing axes, whatever, I don't want to just like have it like hold myself up with a shotgun and say like, you're not getting my Campbell's. And I'm not even trying to make fun of anyone that does that. I just know that I wouldn't be able to bring myself to do that.
Well, I get that, but I'm saying, okay, so here's the thing though. Do you want to face the decision of needing to be one of those people at somebody else's door?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay, then
I desperately don't.
Okay, so your options are going to be, it could potentially be, either I can go be a looter, right? Or I'm going to starve to death, or I can try to at least minimize or maximize the amount of time that I can not have to go out and face that decision, right?
Right.
So,
but you're already thinking too far in advance for me. My brain is so like fried.
I have a quicker way to break it down for you.
Here's the problem. I'm in the process of moving to a new apartment, and I just got a new job. It's all happening so fast. Like 1 week, it's like you'll be all right. Just make sure that you get some gas cans if the price goes too high. The next week, it's like, destruction imminent. Yes, like anything will do. Stockpile cans of condensed milk if you can. It's like this is moving so rapidly. I'm not able to keep up and juggle my actual like.
Yeah, but okay. So
shadow of an adult life I used to have.
All right, well, hang on. So, Stephen, go ahead and respond, and then I guess go ahead, Stephen.
Okay. Well, the thing you said is that you couldn't figure out how you could bring yourself to, defend a can of soup.
That's true.
You're looking at it the wrong way. What you're trying to do is defend yourself from the person who wants to kill you to get that can of soup.
No, you're right. I logically can justify it in an abstract way of why I should be justified in defending that can of soup. I just know that like when all the hormones start, the adrenaline kicks in, whatever. When I put myself in that when I think about try to simulate it in my mind, I just don't see myself being able to pull the trigger, and that's why I know that it would be a failure for me to try to take this approach. Well, not because it's a bad approach, but because I'm a flawed individual that can't bring myself.
Okay, hang on. So, Sunflower, let's think about this though for a second, man. I get where you're coming from, and like I don't think anybody in this room, I sure as heck don't want to. I don't want the day to come where I am forced to make the decision of killing somebody or letting them, take what I need for my family, right? And none of us ever want to face that position. And obviously, in the moment of truth, we'll see what happens. But the point I'm making is like, okay, so right now, it's in your apartment. Is it just you?
It is me and my fiance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, would you rather have enough food for, let's say, like your two of you to be able to stay, locked up in your own house, in your apartment for, let's say, a month, while the madness is going out in the outside and people are like looting and stuff? Because initially they're going to be looting grocery stores, right? They're going to be going after the major players initially, right? Because that's where everybody's conditioned to think that's where the stuff is, right? So, do you want your fiance to have to be and you to have to potentially go out in that madness?
No.
Okay. So if you don't have food, you don't have a very long period of time before you're forced to go out in that madness, right?
Correct. Your logic is 100% sound. Yes,
okay.
I'm not.
Okay. Yeah. So do you live in the vicinity of a Costco or a Sam's Club?
Yes, but I don't have a membership for Costco.
Okay. Well, you can order it through Instacart without a membership, but the membership is not that expensive. It's like $50. go get a membership, go with your fiance, go down there on the weekend, and you can buy. Actually, I would actually recommend going to Sam's Club because Sam's has got better bulk stuff. But like, go to Sam's Club, buy a
I don't
50
think we
pound.
have Sam's Club in Jersey. We have BJ's and Costco. Maybe
Okay,
we
well,
have. I have to
well,
venture.
okay, we'll go to one of the two, right? I would imagine one of these. You look on their look online at their their what they have in stock and stuff. But like, go acquire. Like right now, for example, in Sam's Club, you can go buy a 50-pound bag of rice for. It's actually gone up $5, but it's $19.90 right now. You
Don't get brown rice.
No, brown rice is a very short life cycle. You want white. Okay, brown rice you get it lasts like 6 months. White, if you stick it in a bucket, it'll last 10 years. Right.
That's a good deal.
So my point is, go down to Sam's Club or whatever an equivalent is, right, in your area. Go buy, a couple bags of rice, right? Go buy like 100 pounds of rice. Okay, just do that. You can buy a 50-pound bag of beans. They've got giant cans of veggies and all that kind of stuff. Buy canned chicken, canned tuna, all that kind of stuff. Just buy some. Go drop like, if you got the money, y'all go drop like $500 on big bulk stuff. That's going to be. You hope you never eat it, right? You hope you never eat this stuff. And then just have it. And then the point is, hopefully you never have to use it, and you can look back on it and be like, well, I was worried, and I'm so thankful it didn't happen. And then you start eating it, right? So what's the investment risk?
Well,
you're buying something that ultimately, if the bad stuff doesn't happen, you just eat it.
Yeah, your logic is 100% sound. I'm experiencing cognitive dissonance is what I'm experiencing. I'm not saying that anything, your plan that you just proposed, that's correct, that's true, and I recommend everyone will do it. Maybe I'll do it too. Here's the thing. Here's how my brain works, okay? The lights go out. The power gets cut. The situation that you originally described where rapidly people that basically don't even have enough food to last them tomorrow, this is a lot more people than we think, and they're going to start raiding the stores. Okay, how about my apartment? People start wondering, wait a second, we're all going out and bombarding ShopRite. Why is that guy in apartment number 7? He's had his lights on. No one has left in 7 days. That guy has stuff. Let's go kick his door in. Let's go. This is how my paranoid mind works. And then I'm all of a sudden thinking, the more prepared I am, the more people will notice I'm prepared. Inevitably, it's going to equalize to the point where I have to start just shooting people because there's going to be a picket line at my doorstep. Maybe that is delusional and deranged, but this is how I ultimately
so would you
disable myself from.
So would you rather face starvation or having to make that decision?
No, it's cognitive dissonance is what's going on in my brain. So I rationally understand that I should do what you said, and yet when I start that cog in motion, that's when the sort of like the paranoid, like this is more trouble than it's worth. This is going to cause more problems than it solves. That's when that kicks in, and I can't go through with the sort of more rational, like, no, this is still the best option. Like, don't listen to that voice in your head. Just get the stuff, stash it away, and forget about it. I don't know. It's an issue. It's an issue. It's a problem.
Okay,
it's not a.
So right now, ladies and gentlemen, in the audience, right now we're staging an intervention on Sunflower right now. Okay, so do you think that your fiance would be in favor of or against the idea of stocking up on a little bit of food? I'm not saying you have to go. I'm not talking go crazy, go spending thousands of dollars. I mean, just going and stocking up on, some basics, so that in case something bad happens, you guys will be covered. Like, what do you think her response would be?
Yeah, in favor. Definitely in favor. In favor.
Okay, so she would be on board with doing this.
More than on board. She actually badgers me for a Costco membership on like a once a week basis.
Okay, so I think that in this context, you should look at this in relation to strengthening your relationship with your fiance, showcasing to her that you want to make sure she's taken care of and are going to be smart about it, and that you're making every effort to ensure that if SHFT happens, or SHTF, sorry, happens, that you guys are not going to be some of the first ones that have to do it. Because you think about, dude, I mentioned this earlier, but dude, you do not. If this happens, right? If food riots are actually taking place, like they are already around the world, right? You don't want to have to go out in that, right? Because like you're right now, one of your biggest fears, right, is what if they kind of kick down my door, and I have to make it because they want to get my can of chicken or soup or whatever, right? Well, don't you think they're gonna like come right at you if you're outside walking back from the grocery store with the bag full of like you're now a target, right? So where we're going with all this is, I get your concern, right? Oh, why haven't they left? All that stuff. The people that are going crazy, they're going to be out trying to target the easy pickings out in, and the whole aspect of like anarchy, it degenerates into he who has the biggest guns and the biggest guys, biggest muscles, all that kind of stuff, strongest weapons are what ends up ruling anarchy in an anarchy situation, right? Well, it's because they can take it, they can forcibly take it away from the people, right? Well, at the same time, they're going to be looking for the easy prey, right? Nothing's different than the lions out chasing the freaking antelope, right? They're looking for the ones that are weak and run slow, because why would you want to go after the ones that are doing better? And if you're in your house, what's a risk for them? Like, even if you have something, well, if we kick down his door, we might get shot, right? Versus the person who they see walking back, the little grandma walking back with a couple cans of soup, she's gonna just walk over and physically take it from her, right? Like that's just what will happen. So I'm just saying you're mitigating the potential negatives. And the other point is, as the saying goes, there's 9 meals that separate between civilization and anarchy, right? So if you rapidly degenerate into anarchy and all the rioting and the looting starts taking place, at some point that starts to slow down a little bit, right? Because people can only be crazy for so long before there's like a little bit of a lull. And at the same time, that's where the winnowing out of the low-hanging fruit takes place, right? So in the context of how do I increase my odds? It's like, well, as horrible as to say this, at least I wasn't at the very bottom of the totem pole, and
that's why Lord of the Flies is such an important novel for people to read. But anyway, you're right. You're making good points. Actually, you are convincing me that I should really do this, because you know what you just said that made me think. Okay, we've all seen the Black Friday videos of people in Walmart literally ripping stuff out of the person next to them, like literally like ripping it out of their hands or taking it from their cart. Now that's happening because they're close proximity. They see the other person as not a threat, and that's when they're thinking, I'm going to strike, I'm going to prey. You don't see Black Friday where people like waiting outside their neighbor's door so they can yank the TV. It's all happening in the store. So, yeah, if I could just get over this mental hump of like, for whatever reason, thinking that I'm going to cause more problem than I solve, then yeah, I should stock up on.
Yeah, I mean, in absolutely no way, shape, form, or fashion are you causing more of a problem. you're a 100% mitigating problems.
Right.
Like no doubt about it. And again, man, like for the two of you, I mean, like my daughter doesn't live with me, but like I've been buying extra stuff because her mother is like not grasping that there's a potential problem coming. And so I've been like stocking up on food that I would know would be needed for my daughter as well, and kind of
if I had a kid, I think I wouldn't have the luxury of this stupid cognitive dissonance thing I'm experiencing. But nonetheless, I understand what you're saying. So go.
I have 2 other thoughts. One, if you have the food and you're in your apartment, you've heard the expression out of sight, out of mind. They're going to target who they can see. And if you don't put yourself out there to be seen, you're less likely to be targeted.
Well, no, but my whole point was if they're all out, right, and they're looking at their neighbors, they're going, damn, we're out of food. What are we going to do? And then they all go, how come apartment number 7, I see his lights go on and all, somebody's home, but no one has left that unit.
Yeah, but bro, they're going to, dude, you got to think about this. Okay, let's assume they don't have food, right? That means that they're going to be out. So just because you didn't leave doesn't mean they know that you didn't leave.
That's also true. Yes, that's a good point.
And on top of that, how can they see your lights on if there's no power?
Well, fair enough. Yeah, okay, good point. Again, I'm not trying to justify what I'm saying as rational or reasonable. I'm just trying to say this is what's blockading my mind from doing the rational and reasonable thing. I'm
Okay,
not trying to, that's what I'm trying to convey
we get
issue.
No, we get that. I get it, man.
Yeah.
The second thing I'd like to bring to mind
real quick,
is
Stephen,
okay. The second thing is if you don't stockpile food and you have to go out there to get food and you make yourself a target, who's going to be protecting your fiance? You just left her alone.
I get worried when she goes out now. If she used to go to the store across the street, I'm thinking to myself, like, I can't let her go alone. Even if there's things haven't hit like red alert level yet where I live, and yet just even still, I'm thinking like I can't let her go alone to the store across the street. That's how bad it is. Like,
but if you don't have a stockpile at all, that means you have to go get food, which leaves her alone.
Right.
So in your scenario with somebody coming after a can of soup, if you don't have a can of soup, you're out there trying to get a can of soup. They break in looking for a can of soup. She's alone.
Right. That's a scary scenario. That's a good point.
So if you have the can of soup there, you're there to be with her.
Right. Good point.
I'm just saying, man, you need to just if you're like, hey babe, let's go get Costco membership or whatever, right? She's probably gonna be very happy if she's been talking to you about this for a while, right? So that's already a win-win scenario for you.
Right. Good point.
And then she's like, hey babe, I've been thinking about it. Let's go down there and get this, and let's get some food, and just in case, to cover our asses, and she'll probably be like, okay, all right, let's do it, and
oh yeah, for sure.
Y'all just go do it. I mean, I'm telling you, bro, just like, and bro, food prices are going through the roof. Like,
yeah,
you need to do this now, because
I went to a restaurant. Okay, so listen to this. I started a new job last week. They took they took me out to lunch on like my first day or whatever. We go to a freaking restaurant around the corner, and not kidding, the owner of the restaurant was the only one. First of all, he's the only one working there. He comes up to us, he hands us menus, and then goes, yeah, these are your menus, but every item that has meat is $3.50 more than what the price listed on the menu is. He's like, yeah, like, costs have gone up. We haven't been able to print menus with the new prices. So like, if you see a price on there, if the dish has meat in it, just add $3.50. That's the real price. I was like, what's going on? Like, what is that? Like,
well, and here's the thing, man. The meat price is about to go up again, big time, because all right, so for the last 2 years, well, in 2020 there was a massive decrease in demand because restaurants, hotels, and schools were shut down, which accounts for about 50% of the total demand. So all of these farmers and ranchers and whatnot, they killed a lot of their pigs and cows, both on the dairy side as well as just the normal, meat side, right? So you normally have about 18 months before like if you kill a lot more cattle than normal, right? You have at least 18 months before you can recover that from like calf to the cows being full grown, right? Well, on top of all that, you had a decrease in that normal recovery time, right? You had a decrease in grain supply. So, and the cost of grain shot through the roof. So it's now, I was looking at some reports on this. It's now costing the farmers at the current prices more in grain, in like food cost, than it would cost them like 2 or 3 times as much to feed the cow from zero to ready to sell than they will get when they sell the cow. So why in the hell would you do that if you're going to lose a bunch of money, right? So what they do, they killed a bunch of them, have decided they're not going to like try and re-expand. So we had a glut of meat on the market, which is about to run out. So, and the calves haven't been born. Like they didn't breed the cows to try and replace all these cows that have been killed. So we're about to be running out of freaking meat real soon. So, and then you factor in the yield shortages projections. So like August, September, October, when this year's crop's supposed to come in, all of a sudden it's going to be, oh crap, our supply of this for this year is like, way below what it is supposed to be. And that's when all of the food inflation is going to hit. It's going to be this fall going into the winter is when we're toast, which is why start buying now while it's still relatively affordable. Like I've seen projections of a pound of beef going up to $50 for 1 pound. So at 50 pounds or $50 a pound, how much meat how many steaks are you having, buddy? Not that many,
Zero.
like
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Taco Bell at that point, it's like probably like 35% actual meat, but hey.
Yeah, man, it's like, yeah, but dude, Taco Bell, you're freaking even for that 30% of the real meat, your tacos just went up to like $12
Right.
a taco.
Yeah.
How much? It's like, oh, you want a combo? $37.95.
Forget the dollar menu. It's gonna be like the Benjamin Franklin menu.
Right, man. That's what I'm
That's
saying,
what
man.
you dish out $100 bill and get a freaking discount item.
Yeah, like I was at Sam's Club today, and I was looking at the meat pricing, and it was like $9.60 something a pound for steak, and which is what I think almost 50%. I think it's almost a 60%.
Well, which cut of steak?
Oh, it was good. It was good cuts. It was good cuts.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
About a month ago, John, I bought a whole chuck, 25, 30 pound, it was big. And it was $3.99 a pound. And it was a beautiful piece of meat, Angus.
That's a great price.
And I thought, man, something's going on. And now I know what it was. They probably the glut. They were selling it off. Because usually we pay like $6 for a chuck. And we usually grind it. I have a really nice grinder I bought like 20 years ago, and it still looks as good as the day I bought it, and it still works as good. But so we grind all of our meat and hamburger and pork, and it works great. So I just ground the whole thing up. And so now we got an awful lot of hamburger in 2-pound packs in the freezer, and if the power doesn't go off, we're in good shape.
Chuck roast is my favorite cut of beef to buy. There's so many things you can do with it. I don't grind it. I don't grind it. I usually will sear it on all sides and then slow cook it. End up with kind of like a shredded or either a shredded or like chunks of beef. But for bang for your buck wise, I think getting a large chuck roast is the best you can really get in terms of beef. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Although we just throw it in a crock pot. First, we cover it with olive oil, and we put all kind of what's the name of that stuff? Lipton onion soup. I think it's Lipton, or maybe it's
the powder.
Some
right?
I don't think it's Lipton. I think it's a different brand, but they sell them in big boxes at Sam's. And we just put a pack of those on it, rub it around in the olive oil, coat it good, and then leave it. And 4 hours later, it's delicious. I mean, absolutely delicious.
It's true. The chuck roast has enough marbling that when you slow cook it like that, it ends. You literally set it and forget it. It ends up good every time, and it's affordable. I mean, anyone listening, look into getting a big chuck roast. Don't let the $20 price tag fool you. You're going to get a big piece of meat, multiple pounds. It's a good idea.
So Sunflower.
Now we have canned
Take your own advice, Sunflower. Go buy more. Go buy a couple and stick them in your freezer. So go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, I do have to stick some stuff in my freezer. That's true.
Yeah, we have literally canned, cut up pieces of meat and hamburger and whatnot in mason jars. So we have that as a backup.
I've heard people do that with chicken also. chicken breast or whatever.
We've done it
And they,
with leftover turkey from Thanksgiving.
oh yeah, okay. We don't can meat, but we, this is sort of funky, but I'm going to tell you anyway. We buy these leg quarters at 10-pound bags. It's usually a very reasonable price. And then I cut them all up, bone them all out. We keep the thighs, the boneless thigh meat, and I sort of make slices in the legs. And of course, you have the hips that come with a quarter. We throw all that in a couple of big pots and make turkey broth or chicken broth. And we can it. We bought a big canner many years ago, and we always have a lot of chicken broth on the shelf for soups. And my wife loves like soup with kale or broccoli, and not kale, but endive. She loves endive and broccoli. She makes delicious soup. It's outrageous. Uh, but we also use it for like rice, rice pilaf. We just always going through it. And when we use up a dozen jars, we'll go buy a couple more bags of chicken. Then we'll also have the boneless thighs to eat too. Oh, and one other thing, when it's done, this is the funky part. When it's done, we pull all the meat off the bones and put it in plastic bags. And then I eat that with hot sauce. It's
You
good.
lost me at hot sauce.
Yeah, I love my hot sauce.
Yeah, but after we get done Thanksgiving, we strip the meat off from the turkey and we cut it up and whatnot. And then we take all the bones and like the long bones, like the leg bones and whatnot. I crack those and we put them into the pressure cooker with any like remaining juice that we didn't turn into gravy. And we just cook it to the point where you can squeeze the bones and they practically fall apart. And then we strain all that out and save that as our broth.
Oh, wow. I have a cousin that does that with her turkeys. We've never tried it, but she did tell us that she does, I think, the same thing you do. She always takes all the bones and everything is left over and makes broth out of it, just like you do.
Yeah, what we do is we take the bone and the skin and all the leftover parts and everything, cook the crap out of it. And then what I'll do is you have the screens that you can screen things with, the metal mesh screens. And
yeah, we have one of those. It's very fine mesh.
Yeah,
really fine.
I'll fill that up and squeeze all the juice I can out of it. And then after I get, a whole bunch of the juice, what I'll do is, if it's in the wintertime, I'll stick it outside. If not, I'll stick it in the fridge. And it will basically turn into like a jelly, like Jell-O.
Oh, yeah.
With all the fat on the top. And if you scoop that fat off the top, I mean, you can use the fat to flavor things and whatnot. But as far as canning it for storage, if you take the fat off, you can put it in canning jars and pressure can it, and it can sit on the shelf for a couple of years and won't go bad.
Yeah, if you leave any fat in it or any significant amount, it sort of spoils it over time. Or
right.
We let it sit for like 3 days in the refrigerator in the big pots and the big thick, and then we scrape off the big thick layer of fat. And then I take a strainer and go slowly through it and get all the little specks we missed. You can't get it all, but it's good to get as much as you can. I tell you, it's a great way to, chicken broth, turkey broth, chicken broth is very expensive. I didn't tell you the second part. When Thanksgiving comes around, well, it may not be this year, but up till now, you could buy like 59-cent turkeys or whatever, 20-pounders or close to it. And we'll go all week long. We'll buy two. I'll cut them up. We'll cut the breast off. We save the breast, save the thigh part of the meat. Everything else goes into making turkey broth. And then as soon as we get that started, about a day before the other one gets ready to, the gel or to take out of the refrigerators, we go buy 2 more. So we'll do that all the way through the sale. So we might get 6 turkeys during that time. That makes a lot of broth.
Yeah, I guess. See, we don't use the meat for the broth. I mean, the giblets and the liver and what meat there is in the neck and stuff that's left on the bone. But I mean, we wouldn't leave like the drumstick or the wingettes or anything in there, or what do they call them, drumettes?
Oh, we don't cook the turkeys at all. This is all raw, and then we freeze the. I found that if you take the plastic wrap they sell at Sam, the big things, the big squares, rectangles with the, and got the cutter on it. Although we found out the new cutters aren't worth a darn, so we ordered some online, and they work great. But we will very carefully wrap the meat, fold it over, get it nice and tight, then flip it over, put the open where it's side down, and wrap it again. And when you do that, it's really almost as good as pressure sealing. It'll last a long time. Now, if you do it right. And once we learn that, we save our vacuum seal bags for like steaks, things that we don't want to take any chances with.
Yeah, but this saves it in the fridge.
Guys, I missed a super chat from Purosity Gold. It's pretty good one, in line with what we're talking about. It says having too much rice is better than eating mice. So I think that sunflower should take that one into consideration. You don't want to.
I was going to respond to that. That's actually probably, unfortunately, not true.
You would rather eat mice than eat rice?
I wouldn't rather eat mice, but I'll tell you right now, mice are going to be more nutritious overall.
Well, it would probably be better off if you put the mice in the rice.
Exactly.
Right, like if you skewer the rat, skewer the mouse, you're still going to get all that, B12, iron. You're going to get a robust protein profile. You're going to get some fat. You're going to get, look, in this dystopian scenario, neither is good. But
okay. Let's rephrase this though. Would you like to postpone the day when you have to try and hunt mice? Would you like to?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So
yes.
Also, and Cheryl makes a great point. Buy a lot of salt to preserve food and just for general flavor and whatnot.
I have a comment on that, John, about salt. If you make broth, I always put a little bit of salt in it. That seems to make it last a lot longer.
Oh yeah, and
I mean, I don't put much, but I put some, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon.
Yeah. You don't want to go overboard with the sodium by any stretch of imagination, but the having a little bit can do a lot of things. And by the way, it is recommended, the nutritional recommendations. This is way more than you would expect, but they recommend that the average person per year for good nutrition, you need about 4 pounds. As an adult, you need about 4 pounds of salt per year. So it's like one of those standard size boxes of like Morton's,
right?
All that stuff.
You need some salt. That's why the buzzword electrolytes. I mean, really, all that electrolytes is a fancy word for salt. But yeah.
Well, and something else, folks, that you would think about. So, and Kelvin made a good point earlier. I'm trying to find his chat back up here, but he says we should go review the Weimar Republic history. Because, I mean, the point he's making is the Weimar Republic, right? They had the massive collapse of their currency, which the United States, and people heard me rant about this, the United States we are on a beeline for the collapse of the dollar. You've heard me diatribe about this. Reserve currency, petrodollar status. When that goes, we are freaking toast. Well, India, China, Russia, South Africa, Brazil are all working on alternative current reserve currencies. They publicly stated they're working on alternative reserve currency to circumvent the dollar. Moreover, Saudi Arabia is currently negotiating to sell oil for the first time since Bretton Woods in other currencies other than the dollar. The largest construction company in India just placed a massive coal order to Russia that's going to be paid for in the yuan. They're now going to be trading and doing all this massive amounts of trade, circumventing the dollar and trading in rubles and Chinese yuan. It's happening right now, folks. We are, so all this we're talking about in terms of the food shortages and all that kind of stuff, factor in the madness if we have hyperinflation. Like it's the perfect storm that will be coming. Like there, and the thing is that our politicians are accelerating this. And then we have the geniuses in Europe right now that are literally saying we're going to shut down 30% of their farms so that we can have less cow farts. I mean, you can't make it up, folks. They literally want to shut down 30% of the farms, like for nitrogen. But we need to lower the amount of nitrogen coming out. It's like,
And has anybody noticed how many of the food processing plants have been targeted and destroyed?
oh, they're blown up and burning down left and right, getting run over. I mean, when multiple food processing plants get hit by airplanes in the same year, you can't make it up. I mean, it's like there's no way that there isn't like purposeful obliteration of food production in Western civilization. But I didn't realize, I knew there was a bunch in the States. I didn't realize this. There's been a ton of them that have blown up in Europe too.
Who's behind this?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know.
Like that's like scary.
Let's
What are
see.
your guys' thoughts on bone broth? Is it worth it, or is it maybe overpriced buzzword? Like, what do you guys think about that stuff? I see it in the supermarket. It's a little bit more expensive than the regular broth. I just don't know enough about it. Like, should I start getting this stuff and using it or no?
Just make your own. As I said, when I get the turkey from Thanksgiving and I take all the bones and leftover scraps and everything and cook it all down so the bones are basically mush. That's, I mean, it's basically turkey bone
ideal.
broth.
That's the ideal, but like, let's just say I'm a random, dweeb in a supermarket aisle and I see College Inn, whatever, chicken broth, like $2.99. Then I see like the top shelf, like bone broth, $4.99. Am I getting swindled, or is that actually going to give me some benefit that I'm not getting from the store brand bone, chicken, just standard chicken broth? I'm just wondering, what do you guys think about?
Well,
that?
if you're talking can per can, the bone broth would be better. But if you're factoring in the price, it depends on your taste. Because if you only got one can left, the bone broth has more minerals and whatnot in it.
That's fair. So like better, but definitely you have to factor in price. It's fair enough. Fair enough.
Now, another thing too, when you go to build up your supply, you don't necessarily have to get a thing at Costco and go in and buy, 100 pounds of rice and 50 pounds of flour and 200 pounds of sugar and whatnot. Just every time you go to the store each week, when you can catch stuff on sale, buy some extra to put away. Then if you need it and it's not in the stores, you can cycle through your inventory, so your newest stuff is always going in the back, and you can use the older stuff.
That's a good point, and it's funny because I actually, without even realizing it, like I do have a lot of soup that I just never use. Like when there's soup on sale, it's like I can't resist that. So it's like, I mean, obviously I don't have anything near in my cabinet right now that would resemble like something useful in a doomsday scenario, dystopia, but like without even realizing it, I do have a tiny little cabinet of just soup.
Yeah, soup's a start. Most people go with canned. If you can get dry soup, it's better because it will last longer.
Well, but dry soup doesn't have the I guess whatever they do, they freeze dry the whole vegetables and chicken morsels or whatever they are. Like, does that come in the dry version?
Well,
I mean,
when they freeze dry it, they freeze dry it like they would get ready to throw it into the soup. They're just removing the water.
So it'll rehydrate and actually look just like the canned version. It's just that
similar, and actually, considering as how it's freeze dried, the nutrition value might actually be higher.
I have heard that actually. Yeah, I heard that they've gone back and forth on that. That people thought like, oh, freezing your broccoli is gonna, you want fresh, and then like there was actually studies that showed like, no, actually freezing some foods preserves more nutrients than if you were to sort of get like a,
Well, no, I was talking about freeze dried as opposed to cooked and canned, because the cooking process itself can actually destroy some of the nutrients.
Fair enough, but I want to say, well, maybe I specifically remember broccoli, hearing about how like people were opposed to frozen broccoli, and then they did some study, and it was like, I mean, don't quote me on this, but it was like, no, this is just as much or more nutritious than fresh broccoli. But sorry, I missed your point anyway. But I hear what you're saying.
You are right in certain. It doesn't apply in all instances. You are right in some, and then others doesn't apply. And obviously, what Steve was saying regarding freeze drying is also correct. I mean, it's one doesn't have to be correct and the other one wrong. They can both be
right. Right. Yeah, I missed his point, but I got you. Yeah.
And I agree with you, Stephen. Like, he doesn't need to necessarily go bonkers and go buying thousands of dollars worth of stuff. But at the same time, you can get your baseline in one trip and not have to spend that much money, and just get a few bulk items. And the reason I say that I was on like rice and stuff. I don't know what it is up there, but like here, the like at Kroger, for example, a freaking 5-pound bag of rice costs $10, right? Or I can go to Sam's and buy a 50-pound bag for $19. Like, I'm gonna go buy the 50-pound bag, and or you can buy a 25 one for $10.
And now what we did for storage was we got food grade buckets, and then we got, if you look online, they're called gamma lids.
Yep. Gamma lids are awesome.
Yeah, they're the lids that you snap the rim down onto the bucket, and it locks in place like the original one would. But the center of it has like a big X in it with threads so that you can spin it open to get into it.
I'm bookmarking that now.
Yeah, man, I got a bunch of those.
GAMMA lids.
And if you want to get real serious, so you make sure you Google like food buckets, right? Food storage buckets, something like that on Amazon, and you get the ones specifically made for food. They're a little bit more expensive than normal ones, but whatever.
You can also buy bags, and you can buy
talking about Mylar bags?
Some kind of Mylar bags that you can seal like with an iron, but before you seal it, you put something in there, some bag or some kind of.
You're talking about the oxygen?
And I think it fills it with nitrogen or something. I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but then when you seal it, there's nothing in there that's going to make it spoil or decay faster. Like oxygen is not good.
Yeah, the nitrogen. That's when you buy a big bag of chips and half the bag or more is air. That's nitrogen in there.
We did that years ago, and we live in a hurricane zone, and we bought like rice and beans, nothing spectacular, and we did that with those bags, and as far as I know, it's still good. We haven't opened them up, and we bought those big buckets too that have the permanent seal, and you got to rip the tag off to get it off. Takes a special tool. We don't have the center type like you were talking about, Steve, but that just figuring out a way to preserve it is long term is always a good idea. I was raised in the country, and that was a necessity to be able to can food. We always had canned food from the garden.
What about jerky? Do you guys feel like jerky is also good? Because I know that can last forever too. If you, like store it right.
I don't know much about jerky.
Jerky is basically just dried meat.
Right. Yeah, I knew that, but I don't know about how to do it or anything. People talk about it, but I've never.
It's very nutritious though. Even if all you have to do is not make the mistake that most people make, And like most people will be like, oh, teriyaki caramel glaze. Like they'll get this stuff that has like all this added sugar, but it's actually very easy to find, jerky that's, even the big brands make it too, but you can find there's a lot of like more independent guys that'll do sort of jerky with no added sugar, right? So it's literally just the protein. I imagine there's a negligible amount of fat, if any, and
Yeah, the best is probably smoked jerky.
yeah, oh for sure. But it lasts forever. It really is high. It's high quality protein. You got to be a little bit careful with having, I guess, too much of like smoked and I don't know if there's preservatives or not, but just generally speaking, in terms of the nutrient density and amount of space it takes up, if you get some jerky from a reliable source, like and then a guy that's not just throwing a bunch of sugar on it to make it taste good, it tastes good. That's the crazy part, is it actually beef jerky, if it's made well, all you need is like tiny bit of black pepper. It actually is a great.
Yuck.
I love it, dude. It's a tasty snack. A buddy of mine, actually, this is random, but Texas A&M has, I don't know if they still have it, but a few years back, they have their own beef jerky department, and you can specially order beef jerky made at Texas A&M. You have to do like a ridiculously outdated order where like you either call it in or like mail them something. But
yeah, I was yucking the pepper.
Oh, I mean, it's yeah. Some of them overdo the black pepper, and it just tastes like a mouthful of black pepper. But
Well,
no, I like a
do you
little.
know do you know the original reason why black pepper was so popular?
No, I don't. Please do tell.
Because back when there was no refrigeration, black pepper hid the taste of rancid meat.
I mean, I feel like garlic probably the same reason garlic did that, but nonetheless, I still enjoy both.
I'll take the garlic, leave the pepper off.
To each their own. Yeah, to each their own. No, like
If you have a yard, a garden, or just a fence, you can grow things alongside. Something that grows really well in where I live is turmeric. And once you put it in the ground, it's like bamboo almost. It doesn't grow as fast, but it will spread, and you'll always have plenty of turmeric.
That's actually good for inflammation.
yeah,
But it's really neat. It's a bulb underground. It grows in bulbs underground.
Bring it full circle. They say that black pepper activates the stuff in turmeric.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
There you go. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm even though I'm a career chemist, I'm not some kind of person that appeals to like, scholarly stuff as some kind of infallible thing. But there is at least somewhat decent data on the fact that the flavonoids or whatever in black pepper does seem to make the anti-inflammatory, antioxidant stuff in turmeric a little bit more bioavailable. For what that's worth, it does seem like sound data.
It's the pepper.
You never know what you're getting with a supplement. I was just say, like, with that said, you never know what you're getting with a supplement. Always be cautious. Not saying supplements are all bad or all bogus. I'll just say never rely. In my opinion, you should never rely solely on a supplement to get any single nutrient, right? That's why I think vegans are so off. They don't realize the whole word supplement means that you're adding it to your diet, as in you should be getting it from your diet, and then the supplement is a little extra maybe. But I think it's dangerous to say, oh, I'm only going to get my iron from supplements or so on and so forth. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
And if you're going to do that, go gummies or chewables, because most of the time pills just pass through your system without even being digested.
If you live in a warm climate, another thing that grows good and produces a lot of fruit are kiwi. and they're really good. We will harvest them in the well, you harvest them in the fall when they ripen, and we slice them, freeze them on a pan, and then scrape them off and throw them in a bag, and then all winter long we can grab a coin or two of a slice or two of kiwi and pop it in our mouth. It's great. I mean, it's cheap. Once you get the plants in the ground, they grow. Now, sometimes you got to have a male and a female, and they don't always work out. We tried several times to get it going, but once you get it growing, it's sort of work. You have to trim them every year, or they'll just take over your whole yard. But they're not as bad as kudzu, but they're not far off. But they grow. I mean, you got a lot of kiwi on some plants. You have to build a rack for them, a stand for them to keep them off the ground. Anyway, that's another really good, nutritious fruit that's easy to grow.
Yeah. Well, I live in a trailer park, and I have the front of my trailer is a garden plot, and I have a raised bed garden plot out in my backyard, as well as 9 mini T-Rexes under my porch.
We do both. We also grow in pots. Another thing, if you really want some good storage food, is sweet potatoes, and they will also grow like crazy. And I tried to get rid of them one time, and they came back the next year anyway.
Well,
So they're pretty
their,
hardy.
And their leaves are edible as well.
I never knew that.
Sweet potato leaves are also nutritious. Have nutrition. Sorry, late night, can't my words out. Yeah, it's kind of interesting just to think about where we're heading on a global level, right? Like all the major institutions in the world say we're about to have massive food shortage, and then, but it's like here in the States though, everyone's like, well, that's going to happen to everybody else except us. I'm like, how does that make any sense? Like, yeah, we might not have it as bad as some, third world country, but if the dollar collapses, we are a third world country. Genius. Oh, and by the way, folks, I don't know if you have been paying attention to this, but I'm assuming everybody's heard about the, expectation of blackouts and brownouts happening across America, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So did you guys hear that one of the reasons they have been, and what I'm about to say is going to make total sense to you, but one of the reasons they've been trying to get everybody to go down is because they know with the high heat that the high level transformers will blow. And normally, okay, whatever, you fix them. Well, their inventory is almost non-existent on replacement transformers.
Uh-oh.
So
supply chain is haunting everyone.
Exactly. So
Probably made in China.
well, actually, they are, and they're not manufactured in the United States. So if they go, we're SOL. And then factor this in. This week, the stupid truck apocalypse or truckageddon or whatever they're calling it now in California goes into effect, and 70,000 truck drivers will be banned from driving in California. So if we need things shipped in from China and they're going to come across the freaking Pacific to land in LA, if 70,000 truck drivers are banned from the state of California, how do you get them?
Well, if they organize it correctly, what they'll do is the ones that are allowed in California will snag it, take it across the state lines, and drop it for somebody else to pick it up and take it the rest of the way.
Yeah, they're going to charge a premium somewhere along that. I'm an elite qualified legal truck driver in California, so I'll drop you a cargo just over the border in Nevada, but it's going to cost you. I mean, I can't imagine that being cheap. Sorry, that's just my stream of consciousness.
Well, no, I agree. Hypothetically, that's going to happen, right? But that doesn't mean there's not going to be a massive blockade, or like a choke point that's going to just build up and build up and build up. Even if there is a way to, eventually solve it. I mean, we all observed the outcome of the lockdowns in LA during 2020 and how that extenuated out well into 2021, right? So, and one of the big issues then, before this went into effect, was there is a lot of truck drivers do all the additional regulations and stuff. They refuse to go to California. So, I mean, you got to put all these additional barriers into the equation. You can only see, even if there's workarounds, it's still going to slow down transportation and increase transportation cost. And congratulations, it only took us an extra 2 weeks, but you were out of power. You didn't have a transformer for 2 weeks. How do you feel about that? Or maybe it's months before they come in, which is the report that I saw was that when we run out of the large scale transformers, you're screwed for like a couple months.
Let me comment on that, John. I guess I'm very fortunate that my oxygen requirement is going down, but if the grid goes down for any long period of time, I might be dead.
I'm sure that's going to happen. Not necessarily to you, but there will be people.
What I've been doing, I've been working out. I've been doing heavy lifting, which most doctors say no, some say yes. So I went with the yes. And it's dramatically, and also do a lot of exercise with the rubber bands, stretching them and do all kind of lifting weights, curling. Well, what's happened is instead of being inactive like a lot of people are on oxygen, I've been just proactive, and it's went down. I went all day. I took my wife to the doctor, and I went all the way there and stayed the whole time, and came out on what's called a 1 pulse, which is the lowest my machine goes. Well, I couldn't use that machine a month ago. It just wouldn't put out enough oxygen. So I am down to where if I'm resting, I really don't need any oxygen. But I can't rest all the time, so I'll have to have oxygen. And I am building up sort of a way to charge my portables if I run out of tanks. But on a tank or 1 pulse, it'll go a long time.
Do you do the blowing exercises to help increase your lung capacity?
Oh yes, I do 2 different kinds of those. One has a little float that goes up, and you try to get it up to a certain level. Well, I'm like 1,000 points better than when I left the hospital. And also have one where you blow in and out. It has adjustments where it just makes it harder and harder and harder, and you suck in just as hard. And that one is I really got, when I first started using it, I'd cough myself to death, but now I can really do a number on it.
Yeah, I saw people mentioning drinking beet juice in the channel. I hear that's actually very nutritious.
We eat beets.
Yeah, I'm growing some.
They're pretty easy to grow, but they're around here. If you want to protect some plants from bugs, just plant some beets beside them, because bugs, they love beet. By the way, beet tops are really good. They're as good as any other vegetable. They're delicious.
Well, we eat them as beet greens like you would spinach.
Yeah, right. Well, the whole time I was growing up, we grew beets, and we always threw the tops away. But then I met my wife, and she said that her great-grandparents in New Jersey would go by the market, and they would give him free beet tops. This is back during the Depression. And that was about all the vegetables they ever got. And I tried them. The first time I tried them, I was just shocked how good they were. They're delicious.
Yep.
So we wasted a lot of vegetables over the years.
Yep. I like them with cider vinegar.
Yes. Yeah. Put a little vinegar on them. It's really good. Oil and vinegar. But we, of course, we saute them or, cook them or boil them. But they are really, really good.
Yeah. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up while that other guy was here, but he left before I could do it. we were talking about viruses. You remember that, John?
Oh yeah.
If everybody keeps bringing up like the endogenous retroviruses and, you know, where did viruses come from and everything. I'm a little puzzled why everybody just automatically makes the assumption that the virus got into our genes. Why couldn't it have been the other way around? Why couldn't our genetic code have been turned into viruses? And like viruses originally were the body's way to repair damaged DNA. They could like clone a copy of the DNA and replace damaged, which in essence would be a virus. And of course, at the fall, what would be the easiest thing to corrupt?
Steve, for quite a while, I read this on an article by a guy from Europe. Don't remember his name, but he suspected. Now he was pretty smart. He wrote a really good article. The ERVs, so-called endogenous retroviruses, and he said, and I believe Donnie's talked about that a lot. Standing for Truth has talked about that. But anyway, he suspected from all his research that the origin of viruses, or especially the HIV type and the other, came from the ERVs in our systems. In other words, the ERVs were put there from the beginning and they're misnamed. They should never have been called viruses. But they mutate and create a deadly virus like HIV or some of the others. And
or if it just crosses a species or something.
I'm sorry.
You know, if say a virus fragment that came from, like they say, HIV originally came from chimpanzees. Technically possible. Well, they say what it was people decided to biblically know chimpanzees and caught the virus from them.
Holy cow.
That's where that's one of the potential ways it got started. But let's say that it's the whatever the virus was natural to their system, but it crossed over to our system. It wouldn't fit right with our genetic code. So it would cause problems.
I didn't know that.
Because
I'm like a layman's lower than layman on this stuff.
Right. Well,
but there are some
about 95% of the viruses are actually helpful to us that we have in our body all the time.
A lot of them, yeah.
And I'm just thinking, you know, it just makes sense that God would design the human body that, you know, if it needs these viruses to function, it's able to create them. Because when you're growing up in utero, where's the virus going to come from? Now, I know a lot of times, as far as protection from the viruses and the bad viruses in the world and whatnot, mother's milk helps with that. The colostrum, like the first couple of hours. But the necessary ones, why wouldn't our own body be producing them? And if that's the case, it makes sense that some of the bad viruses out there would either be messed up viruses from our own body, like say cancer cells. If a cancer cell produces a virus of itself and it spreads, that could be one of the genetic forms of how cancers spread, because they are finding now that cancers are being caused by viruses.
I read something about that recently too, how just exactly what you're talking about, how viruses are one of the cancer, some of the viruses are cancer causing.
Yes, they're a cancer vector.
Very interesting.
But if the human body naturally produces the viruses it needs, and then you have a cancerous cell that the area where it's trying to produce the virus that it thinks the body needs is the cancerous messed up part, then it's going to spread that to other cells. And if the viral system is a way of trying to repair damaged DNA, if you invert that, then the damaged DNA is going to infect healthy DNA, which is what cancer is. So I was always puzzled why everybody was talking about how did endogenous retroviruses get into our DNA? I'm thinking the more important question is how did the endogenous retroviruses get out of our DNA? I don't know if Donnie's still in the chat for this or not, but
He fell asleep.
Yeah, you might have. What's up, Hefe? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you guys doing today?
Good,
Hanging in there.
good. Thank you.
Good deal. Thought I'd jump in here and give you guys a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of a little bit of juice and some coffee. Liven up the show. Do you guys see a Creflo Dollar said that paying your tithes isn't biblical, a New Testament thing? You guys agree with that or not?
What? Say what?
Paying your tithes, is that a New Testament or Old Testament thing? Creflo Dollar said that it's not New Testament, just Old Testament.
It's not New Testament. In fact, in the Old Testament, it's nothing like anything we see today. Abraham gave 10% of his wealth or whatever to Melchizedek. I think that's right.
Why would it not?
But he only did it one time.
Why would it be not? Nowhere. It never said that. He only did it one time. They've always given their tithes. Jesus said to pay what is God's, and what is the government's. That's pretty simple.
But that was to pay your taxes. But the Old Testament tithes were
right.
They had them set up to where it was helping the widows and the poor and all that, and it's sort of weird how they did it. And one of the curses, or maybe the only real curse that was on Israel, mentioned in Malachi, was that if you go back, it was because they didn't help the widows and the fatherless, the strangers, whatever. If you go back to the books of Moses, they were supposed to leave a certain amount of food in their fields and whatever for these people to glean off of.
You never read Cain and Abel?
Who?
Cain and Abel. Never read that?
No, I don't think so.
You never read Cain and Abel?
I don't think that was about tithing.
No,
that was about sacrifice.
I'm a little hard of hearing, Jeff.
That was exactly about tithing. Because if you could read it, it says that Cain, he didn't pay his tithe. It wasn't the first fruits, and Abel's was. You could see that.
Okay, I understand.
You could see that at the beginning of the chapter.
What the hell are you talking about, dude? He wasn't supposed to give of his first fruits. He needed a sacrifice.
Well, if you read that first,
what are you talking about, bro?
All you got to do is read the first. You got to read it. Have you read it?
Yeah, I've read it. I mean, quick sidebar. Why do you ask really dumb questions so much about have you ever read about Cain and Abel? Dude, well,
obviously,
pretty much everybody's read about Cain and Abel who's been in.
I thought he was talking about a book.
No, the biblical story. But the whole Cain and Abel thing was about it had to be a blood sacrifice because something had to die. And you cannot get blood from a turnip. Therefore, vegetables didn't work.
All you got to do is read the verse 3. It says it talks about the fruit of the tree. It was in the middle of the garden.
This is Cain and Abel, bro.
Oh no, okay. I'm sorry. That's the wrong one.
I'm looking at the chapter right now. So
I'm sorry.
And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and his offering he hath not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said,
doesn't say anything about first fruit for Cain.
Why
read
art thou wroth?
read chapter 3. verse 3 of
I've already read verse 3, buddy.
the course of the time of Cain presented some of the land of the produce as an offering. If you look that up, the course of the time was it wasn't the first fruits. That's what that means.
Wait a minute. Didn't the verse after that say, and Abel brought of his first fruits also?
Okay, it says,
Yeah.
and Abel.
We're not talking
verse
about
three.
Cain. We're
brought
not talking about Abel. We're talking about
Okay,
Cain.
bro, when I'm reading the scripture, silence. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the
That's
Lord
key.
had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain his offering he hath not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him.
Yeah, right there in verse 3. That's it right there. Can you read verse 3 one more time?
And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord.
That's it. In the process of time, when you look that up in the Greek, he brought his
In the Greek?
or was it the I'm sorry, Hebrew. That it's talking about he brought it at the wrong time. He didn't bring his first fruits.
It doesn't
No,
say
dude,
that.
no, that's
it
not
doesn't
what
say that
bro,
at all.
dude, that's
Exactly
not what it's saying. No.
That's nonsense.
That Cain brought of the fruit of the ground. That is a significant point of the whole difference between Cain and Abel. He brought the fruit of the ground versus of the blood sacrifice that was required. That is the
first, John. What he's talking about is the first part of the verse, and all it says is in the course of time or after so many days.
That's it right there.
I mean, has nothing to do. Has absolutely nothing to do with what he brought. It just over time.
Course
he
of
brought
time
some, but also
means
Abel brought it at the same time.
Fruit.
You're not making any sense.
The very next verse
means it wasn't the first fruit. Just
look
go
at
ahead
the very
and study
next verse.
Just go ahead and study that. Just go ahead and
look
study
at the very next verse. It says Abel also brought of the first of his flock. Well, if he also brought the first, then that means Cain must have brought the first.
Cain didn't bring it. The course of time. Just study that. That's
well, it had to grow.
That's crazy.
Course of time. That means it was. That was at the. That was at the.
We're gonna listen. I've got my Bible, like my digital Bible, pulled up, and I'm gonna read multiple translations. Okay.
Go ahead.
So let's go with the Common English Bible, just an example. Verse 3. Sometime later, Cain presented an offering to the Lord from the land's crops, while Abel presented his flock's oldest offspring with their fat. Okay. Let's go New Living Translation. Let's see what they got to say. When they grew up, Abel became a shepherd, while Cain cultivated the ground. When it was time for the harvest, Cain presented some of his crop as a gift to the Lord. Abel also brought a gift, the best portions of the firstborn lambs from his flock. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but he did not accept Cain and his gift. Okay, let's go. Let's do another one. Let's go with, let's see. Let's just pick a random one. Let's go with the Complete Jewish Bible. Let's see what that says. Havel kept sheep, while Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought an offering to Adonai from the produce of the soil, and Havel too brought from the firstborn of his sheep, including their fat. Okay, let's pick another one. Let's see. Let's go with let's see what Good News Translation has to say. After some time, Cain brought some of his harvest and gave it as an offering to the Lord. Then Abel brought the first lamb born to one of his sheep, killed it, and gave the best parts of it as an offering. I'm pretty sure so far your position is not working out here. Right. Let's go with the Modern English version. Let's see what they got to say. And Abel was keeper of the flocks, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought an offering to the Lord of the fruit of the ground. Abel also brought the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. I mean, I'm not really following what your point is, buddy.
Yeah, my point is this: the course of times mean he brought it at the later, like the end of the crop season.
At the time of harvest, bro. At the time of harvest, when would you bring it? Are you gonna like dig it out of the ground before it's grown to go bring it as an offering?
Well,
how does that make any coherent sense, bro?
Do your study, bud. Just do your study.
I'm asking you.
He brought it at the end instead of the beginning.
You got too much time on your hands.
All right. Well, you know what? Hey, keep studying. That's all I got to tell you.
You claim that we're the ones that understand it, but pretty much everybody is recognizing that you're the one who's not comprehending.
Okay.
God commanded that blood had to be shed.
Where did
So
it say?
what Cain needed to do was, since Abel
Where did it say
was,
that? Where did it say that though?
I don't know the exact
Okay,
verse,
thank you. So
but
don't just
for one
make up
thing,
stuff.
no,
Don't
I'm
say
not
stuff
making
that.
up.
Well,
I'm
then
not.
show me
No,
where it
wait a
says it.
minute.
Then.
Wait a minute. Wait a
Back your
minute.
point up, bud.
I'm trying
Don't
to.
tell me I'm wrong when you can't
I'm
back your
trying to
point up.
back my point up, but you're not letting me.
Go ahead.
That's the
Don't do
reason.
what. Don't just
I,
say vague
I
statements though. Give me the
I'm
word.
not. I'm trying to. That was the reason why the fig leaves that Adam and Eve made to cover themselves when they were naked were not good enough. God slew a sheep and made aprons out of their coats to cover them.
This is about tithes,
Because
bud. This isn't about making a sacrifice. This is about tithes. You know what a tithe is? This
do
is a
you know what
point.
a sacrifice to God is?
This is about tithe. I know what a sacrifice to God
Bro,
is.
This
this
is
is not
about
about tithe. This is not about tithe, buddy. This is
Exactly
about
about tithes.
sacrifice. This is not about tithe. This is about sacrifice. Yeah, okay, let's think.
Offering. Does it say? It says.
Bro, dude, silence. Think about this from the Hebrew perspective, okay? Was tithing, when they went to the tabernacle, was the lamb or the dove that was being brought based on how much money they had and their standing, was that the same as their tithe, or was that separate in relation to the sacrifice that was being offered and the blood that needed to be shed in order for the covering of their sin?
Well,
Was so
there's
hang on,
tithes.
hang on, you're going to answer the question first. Is there sacrifice and tithe, are they separate or synonymous?
Yeah, they're separate.
Okay, cool. So in the context of the accepted offering from Abel being the lamb, would you say that since it's the lamb that needs to be sacrificed, would that be the same as the tithe? We've already said, we've established they're separate. So is the lamb that was accepted the tithe or the offering? Which one?
That's a tithe. That's a tithe.
How do you defend that position? You just said they're not synonymous, so defend that position.
It was the offering. It was the first fruits. It says that Abel also presented an offering.
Dude, okay. Have you ever read the delineations in the first 5 books? I forget which one it is. I'll have to look it up exactly. But what was accepted as an offering from the lamb and whatnot? Like, were you allowed to just bring any lamb, or did it was supposed to be the one that was spotless? Go.
Yeah, you could bring. You could. It was supposed to be spotless.
Okay, cool. So it needed to be. It was supposed to be a firstborn, was it not?
Yeah,
It was supposed to be spotless. Is that what Abel brought?
Well, you could bring doves.
Is that right? We're not in the context of the sheep. Yes, there were multiple options. I agree. I understand that. But in the context of the example that we're talking about here with Cain and Abel, was what Abel brought exactly what is described as being the optimal sacrifice further on in Scripture, as clearly delineated? Yes or no?
Say that one more time. Clearly delineated. What does delineated mean exactly? Tell me that one more time. I looked it up.
So you're asking me to tell you the thing that you're looking up?
Clear boundaries on both sides.
I mean, hey, you don't have to accept it. I mean, it says right there. It
does not say tithe, bro. We're establishing. We're extrapolating. Dude, we're doing a deep dive into this. You're claiming that I need to do research. Okay. Now we're trying to establish here is the offering brought by Abel directly equivalent to what is described as the ideal offering later on in Scripture? Yes or no?
That's later on in the Scripture. This is that has nothing to do with this. That's later on.
Just we're interpreting Scripture with Scripture.
Tithing is later.
Well, yeah.
No, that tithing isn't later.
Let's stay focused, buddy. We're gonna stay focused. Okay, try to stay focused. Is there a direct corollary between what is brought by Abel as an offering and is accepted by the Lord and what is described later on as the ideal offering? Yes
Yeah,
or no?
that's totally different from this.
No,
That's
answer the question, dude. Is it a directly
totally
equivalent
different.
description?
Totally different.
Yes or
That's
no?
different. That's a different time and a different talking to different people. So
Okay,
this
so
is at the very beginning.
is Christ described as the perfect lamb? Yes or no?
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with this.
Oh well, that's in the future too, right?
It has exactly to do with that. That's what it
And-
represents.
Exactly. And
Okay, well, show me where it says that.
are the sacrifices?
All you gotta do is show me where it says that. Then give me the proof.
Oh, what?
You
Exactly?
just admitted that Jesus is referred to as the perfect lamb.
Well, you can't give me the proof.
Why do you think that
you can't give me the
is?
proof. Just say you can't give me the proof. That's all. I asked for the proof. Give me the proof.
This is well established in every doctrine of every church for the last 2,000 years. Are you suggesting that all of them in every single aspect of this has been established that Christ is the perfect lamb and the sacrifices in the Old Testament were the indicative type of Christ that are they're showing forth what is to come? Are you actually saying that?
I'm saying
Are you saying that? Is that what you're saying? Are you
that out of
suggesting
context,
that
is what I'm saying.
the sacrificial lambs in the Old Testament were not indicative of what was coming in the Messiah in the future? Yes or no?
I'm saying you're taking it out of context. That's
John,
what
How am I taking it out of
We're
context?
trying to
I'm
put
putting
it in
that's exactly in
context.
context. That's
exactly.
exactly
Well,
the
leave it in context then.
We
Don't take it
are.
out of- All right. What does it say then? Say what it says.
Dude, listen, Jeff, Hefe, whatever's your freaking name, dude. Are you special needs? Seriously?
Are you special? Do you read? I don't think you
Yes,
study
I
the
read.
Bible. I really
Yes,
don't believe
I
you study
do.
the Bible. Have you? How many times? Have you read the whole Bible?
I
Do you
have.
know what the tithing was for? It was to help support the widows and the ones with no parents. I can't think of the word at the top of my head and whatnot. But it was something to help the poor and downtrodden.
it was
How
also
many
to help the Levites.
It was
They
for a
did not
blessing.
have a
It was for a blessing.
inheritance.
Yeah,
For blessing,
that was
period.
after the tribe division. But the thing is how many poor and downtrodden could there possibly be when there was Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel? Who were they going to pay it to?
This was a sacrifice. This was an offering to the Lord.
Exactly. That's what we've been saying. It was a sacrifice, not a tithe.
Oh,
Same
boy.
thing. It right here was a tenth.
I give
Correct? Was it a tenth?
No.
Dude, nothing
Yes,
is
it was.
said
It
about
says it was a tenth. It says
He did not
nothing
kill a
about
tenth
this.
of his flock.
the firstborn. The firstborn
not
of
a
his flock
tenth.
was the fatted portion. All right.
That's not a
Do
tenth.
you think firstborn equals tenth?
Let me see one more time. Let me read this one more time.
Have you Googled what firstborn means, bro? Go look that word up. Go do a little investigation. Go do a little studying and extrapolation of words, bro. What is firstborn?
If 30 sheep were born that year, the first one would be the firstborn of that year. If it was unblemished, that would be the target animal.
Right. Oh, hey, whatever you say, bud.
He did not sacrifice 1/10 of his flock.
First fruit. First fruit. That's the point. First fruit. And we could agree to disagree. You don't have to.
Well, you're trying to turn this into a tithe when it was a sacrifice. They're different.
All right. Well, my point was it was a first fruit. So, it was Cain didn't do it.
What does first fruit have to do with it being a tithe, buddy?
With the first fruit, because that's what God required. That's what it was.
God required a blood sacrifice.
Where's it say that at? Show me.
Do you
that.
remember the coats?
It doesn't say that there, right?
Why weren't the fig leaves good enough?
Well, don't twist the scripture if it's not there, bud.
I'm not
We're
twisting
not
it.
twisting the
Exactly what you're
scripture,
doing.
buddy. You're the one
That's exactly
twisting
what
the
you're
scripture.
doing.
Okay,
You're putting your own words into it.
Hey, genius. Hey, genius. In to the point that Stephen is making, if Adam and Eve had made themselves fig leaf aprons and clothing or whatever, cover their nakedness, right? And then God comes along and says, "Hey, that's not good enough," and then kills the lambs, then clothes them in that, right? And then talks about how to the serpent and how that the woman is going to give birth later on, and it's describing the sacrifice that will happen. You will bruise his head, or you shall bruise his head, you shall bruise your heel, all that kind of stuff, right? Talking about it's showcasing forward to the Christ, the Lamb, the perfect Lamb that will come to take away the sins of the world. That's what that is indicative of. That's happening prior to what we're reading right now. Okay.
Yeah,
And
you're taking all that out of context.
No,
whatever.
Dude, have you ever read the ridiculous amounts of commentaries on this topic and the
Yes.
thousands of sermons that have been preached on this?
Yes, I mean,
Are you saying that
you could take it? You could twist the scripture all you want all day long.
Okay, so all the church found the fathers of the church who said this. They were twisting the scripture.
I don't know. Were you reading John Calvin? Is that who you were reading? Probably.
No, I'm saying going back.
Who? It depends on who it was.
Okay.
Did you ever contemplate your twisting the scripture?
I'm reading right here. It says right here.
Well, start with in the beginning and proceed on from there.
And Cain worked the ground. In the course of time, Cain presented some of the land's produce as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also presented an offering and some of the firstborn of his flock. And there was a fat portion of the Lord had regarded for Abel and his offering, but he did not have regard for Cain and his offering. And Cain was furious and looked disappointed.
What's your point?
Course of time, bud. Course of time means something.
That's nuts.
Start with in the beginning, God created.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Bro,
what does that mean? You tell me what that means.
How does course of time equal tithe?
What does it mean?
I wrote from multiple
No, you didn't answer what it means, though.
It means in the time of harvest, dumbass.
Thank you.
Time of harvest, when it's grown.
That's what I said.
Are you actually this stupid? Seriously, are you a troll or are you actually this dumb?
He's got to be a troll.
Why would Cain go offer plant or fruits of the ground to God that aren't grown yet? I mean, you cannot be this stupid.
You'll get it. Keep studying, bud. You'll get it.
I think he's a freaking troll, man.
Yeah, he's crazy. I mean, I shouldn't have said that, but I think he was a troll.
Well, he's been doing this. He keeps wanting to debate me, and it's like, bro, if you actually wants to debate in an actual real discourse, he's going to embarrass himself, like in perpetuity. Because I've said if he wants to debate me, he's got to have a freaking camera and his face has got to be on that sucker, because I want him to say this dumbassery and like put a face behind it, because this is ridiculous.
That was the craziest argument I ever heard about the course of time. I mean, it made absolutely no sense.
And this clown is now saying, debate me now. Dude, I've been debating you for the last hour. And you're an idiot. I mean, and if you want to do a for real debate, timed responses, full scale rebuttals, cross-examination, all that kind of stuff, let's do it. But as long as you're willing to put your face on the camera, let's rock and roll. We'll set up on SFT's channel and we'll do it. And if you think that cussing Christian is some big deal, you can literally kiss my ass, because you are so dumb. You're an embarrassment to the majority of people out here. Because pretty sure everybody in the side chat was quickly recognizing what we were all talking about, and you're the only one who is out to lunch. And Hefe, I've told you to email SFT and get a couple times, and then get back with me for a couple weeks from now. Okay, go get some times and come back to me. All right, go get some times and come back to me with multiple options for me to choose from, and we'll get something set up. But I got more stuff going on in my life than to go and debate a troll moron such as yourself. But if you want to get embarrassed, go email SFT, get some times, and we'll set it up. Okay?
Why do you expect John to email him anyway? You're the one that's bound and determined that you want to debate using crap that you're throwing out just to confuse everybody.
He says I'm running. That's priceless. Okay, so while I was running, Ghostman's been waiting very patiently. What's up, Ghostman? How you doing?
That guy can't debate it. He seemed like he had like very bad health problems.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, I think he's just old, like me.
You think he's okay?
I mean, I don't know. I think he's special.
Who are we talking about?
We're talking about the guy that was just in here being an idiot.
Oh, him.
Hefe.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the guy that was on the debate earlier. I'm a little hard of hearing. I'm sorry.
Oh well, that guy was. I mean, he that dude's just a desperate atheist. An atheist so desperate, like in his old age, he is desperate to not have to change his worldview and completely obliterate what he has spent the last 40, 50 years espousing as true.
Now,
I
now
mean,
you just called him an atheist, but he said that he accepted Christ.
called who an atheist?
The guy in the debate, or did I get it crossed up with Hefe?
No, I'm calling the guy in the debate.
Okay, the guy in the debate, Kent said something about how we wanted to get you saved and lead you to the Lord. He said, "I've already accepted Christ." So
Yeah,
it
I know,
sounded
But he mocked supernatural.
I think that was more of a reference to like at some point in his life he claimed you know how like the atheists talk about like there was a time when I believed in God and all that kind of stuff. I think that's what he was referring. I could be wrong, and if I am, I retract my point. But I that's what I took from it. That was him being like extreme sarcasm of like I've been saved. I was raised in church kind of thing. The Matt Dillahunty talking point, right?
Yeah, but I think the whole supernatural thing he was bringing up was more mocking Kent Hovind than it was mocking God.
I don't know. Well, I didn't listen to a lot of the debate. I'll be honest. But what I heard, it didn't sound like he was a Christian ever. But I speaking of Christians, I would put him as much a Christian as Ken Miller. That guy lies all the time.
So I'm really cracking up out here how Hefe says OSAS don't read the Bible. I mean, I just read from like 6 or at least 5 different translations to prove my point.
John, I opened up
I don't read the
my.
Bible.
I can click on a link on my software and open up every one of my versions on that particular verse. And then I can scan through them.
Right.
And I have 27 translations plus a Septuagint. I don't know why. I just kept accumulating them, sort of like a pack rat, I guess. But not one of them even hinted that he knew what he was talking about. Not one of them. They all had the things like you said, after harvest, in overtime, and just all different things saying the same thing, different translators. By the way, there's a on Bible, not Bible Hub. Yeah, maybe it's called. No, it's Bible. I can't remember, but the big site. You can look at every single English translation, like 50 or more, all at the same time for a verse. Well, I put that button on my website. I programmed it. And mine, you can program a web button, just a button. Program it to go to any particular site. And so I go to that site and pick up all the translations for a single verse, like 50 of them. And you can make a good argument with that. I know consensus doesn't mean anything, but you can still make a good argument with it. And
it probably was Bible Hub.
No, I think it was wait, I'll look it up. Gosh, I got it right here.
Because Bible Hub is in the App Store and it exists. Search,
Bible
read,
Hub,
study the Bible in many languages.
No, this is Bible Gateway. Right now I'm on 1 Peter 1:9, and it lists like, gosh, I don't know, it's a bunch.
Okay, I think Bible Gateway is the one I use.
Yeah, but I programmed mine where if it allows you to go to a particular book and verse, or just a book chapter, verse, or just book chapter, I can program buttons very simply. It's just a little roll your own type thing that people can do that have the software. They can just go in and change the buttons to whatever they want. So this one, I bring it to Bible Hub just for whatever verse I happen to be on. If I want a commentary for that verse, most commentaries are by chapter. So I just bring up the commentary for the whole chapter and scroll down and find whatever I need. It's really pretty neat. But it's just real simple. You just add like stars and and percent, things, code symbols I made to substitute for the book, chapter, verse, and then I got a little library you can build of book names. And right now I maybe have 10 of them that fit everything I found on the internet. But you can also cross-link them. Like you may have one list that's perfect and maybe except maybe one book, like Song of Solomon. Well, you can borrow from another book. uh, it worked. It's really neat. But I had too much time on my hands. I got rambling. I love programming.
I'm just kind of looking at some of the stuff that's going on in chat.
Oh, we lost Dan. Dan, come back.
Where'd he go?
Yeah, oh yeah, the chat's ridiculous. I mean, FA is just a clown show, man. It's ridiculous. It's really amazing. He claims that I'm running away from him. It's like, dude, I let you in like 4 streams in a row for you to trash talk and be a complete idiot, and then somehow I'm running away from you, even though I let you in, and I've told you to go get some dates and we can have a debate. I mean, so either you're special or you're an idiot. I mean, that's where we're at this point.
Yeah, I mean, since I said I didn't know the exact verse, he kept immediately cutting me off and not letting me bring up my example just to make me look bad.
That's right, bud. That's right, bud.
I accidentally cut myself off. I was moving to look up something and I messed up. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a good thing it was a button instead of a knife.
Well, I tell you what really gets me about the whole deal of like claiming that we were making stuff up, and I'm like, that the whole aspect of that the sacrifice in the Old Testament are not a type of Christ, like it's a foresight into the role played by the Messiah. I mean, like y'all are making that up. Like, no, I'm pretty sure that's been a well-established position for like the last 2,000 years. Would you guys agree or disagree with me on that one?
Yeah.
By the way, the verse I looked up was 1 Peter 1:19. It says, talks about, well, anyway, and it leads up to this. It says, but with the precious blood of Christ as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. And I think in the Hebrews, it makes some similar statements. I don't remember exactly where. But no, it definitely makes, like you say, a lamb, the sacrifice of a lamb is a type of Christ.
Well, I mean, what is Hebrews chapter 7 through 10 is all about? The sacrifice,
Christ.
the priest,
Yep.
like the one-time offering versus all, like, was it chapter 8? I think it goes into great detail about the, like, under the law there was the ongoing sacrifices required, but then the perfect sacrifice would come, and that is the Messiah. I mean, like, I don't know. Pretty sure that would be in. Go ahead, sorry.
Wasn't there something in there about how the animal sacrifice covered your sin, but Christ as the perfect sacrifice cleansed your sin?
Exactly.
I don't know where it's at, but it's
right. Well, tomatoes, turnips, and carrots wouldn't work for that.
Let's see.
He's a troll, John.
LPP?
Yeah.
Did you ever debate Aaron Raw?
No, I've never gotten the chance to take him on.
Or Atheist Jr.?
I was supposed to have a debate with Atheist Jr., and then him and his little partner backed out at the, like 2 days before we were supposed to debate.
Is it because he knows you're a genius and you rip him apart?
I don't know. I don't claim to be a genius, but Atheist Jr. I would destroy him. There's no doubt about that. Because here's the thing: Atheist Jr. and most of those guys, they are used to. Well, I don't know. Some of them, they get obliterated every time, and then they come back thinking that they're going to be okay. It's really interesting. They just get annihilated, and then their little echo chamber tell them that they win. It's crazy, but like Aaron Raw just yells a lot and flips out and starts dog cussing everybody while drinking his beer and then claiming you're the crazy one as he gets more and
And
more drunk.
interrupting.
Yeah.
He's a raging lunatic's what he is.
Oh yeah. He makes it like a few minutes into the debates and then like starts flipping out on people. But then like, yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I would debate Atheist Jr. I would give him no mercy. And this other thing, a lot of these guys go into these debates thinking that, and some of this stems from for decades, and this is part of the reason we're in the current position we're at, is for decades, a lot of apologists were always operating from this, well, we can agree to disagree standpoint, right? And weren't going for the jugular in obliterating their opponents.
They were Republicans.
And now, fast forward to where we are now, and we have all these people who have been convinced that this stuff is just no big deal. We can ignore it because they were so complacent for decades. And the irony of ironies is now with the evidence becoming stronger and stronger in our favor. Like, why give mercy? None. Give no mercy. They give no mercy to you. And in the case of that's why I say at the beginning of this, like, let the mental combat begin, because this is where we're at. Like, this is the front lines of the war between good, evil, God, not atheism, theism. This is the front lines of it here. It's right here on the internet. This is where it's at. This is the no holds barred. This isn't academia where everybody can be all nice and fluffy and I love what you're having to say, but I just have a slight disagreement. No, that's not where we're at here. Because I'm not saying it to degenerate to being vicious in the way that a lot of atheists do, but I'm saying from a substantive perspective, why would you not present the evidence as strongly as you can? And then when your opponent says stuff that's really stupid, obliterate them. Because I have no expectation to be able to convince my opponent to change their mind. My objective is to showcase how incorrect they are for the people who are on the fence, because there are thousands of people coming on the internet who are especially young people, are in the shades of gray. They thought they knew this, they don't. They're being told all these different things, and they need somebody to be like, hey, if you can ultimately disagree with me, right? But you have to do it by analysis and critical thinking of the evidence for or against.
Your mission is the audience.
Exactly. And that's why I get so irritated. People are so just so complacent in their debates. Like, no. When they leave a gaping hole in their defenses, stab them. Not literally, obviously, but from an intellectual perspective, go take them out. Why? Seize the day, man. Anyway, that's my diatribe.
So nobody thought my 9 mini T-Rex's joke was funny, huh?
Steve, have you ever heard of King Crocodoc?
Steve, I was chuckling when you said I was on mute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, have you ever heard of that guy named King Crocodoc?
I missed it. What was your T-Rex joke, Stephen?
I said where I had 2 gardens and underneath my porch I have 9 mini T-Rexes.
I don't get it.
The evolutionist claims that T-Rexes evolved into a chicken.
Oh, I get it.
Now I get it. Can you imagine thinking up something that crazy? I mean, you gotta be really, really desperate to. They're desperate. They're desperate to keep Darwin alive.
Well, the way they look at it, the crazier it sounds, the more people go, well, if it's that crazy and they said it, then it must be true. Otherwise, you think they're nuts. Well, yeah, they're nuts. But that seems to be the philosophy that they go by, is if it's crazy enough, people will believe it.
Well, anytime they do stuff like that, it's always a good idea to make fun of them. Like, do you remember when Matt Powell, I think his name's Matt, that goes on Kent's show every now and then.
That's Matt Powell.
He did the one about the surfing, the monkeys surfing to South America, and the dinosaur parts caused their extinction, and that's all kind of crazy stuff. And he just makes fun of them. Well, the one uh, now I lost what I was thinking. I'm old, but y'all go ahead and I'll think of it in a minute.
You were talking about Matt Powell and the dinosaurs sparking themselves to extinction. Were you
Yeah,
getting ready to go to the surfboard and monkeys?
right. One that I've been using for years, and they do not like it, is that we were descendants of frogs. They said nobody says that. So then I show them two quotes by Neil Shubin, where he says that we got our hiccups from tadpoles. Well, how could we get them from tadpoles if they weren't our ancestors in one manner or another? Well, they do not like that. And Neil Shubin definitely said, he said in his book, and he said in a New Scientist or something interview, or article, and they do not like that.
Okay, so Stephen, I think I found what you were referring to. It's actually Hebrews 9. And pay close attention, Hefe. But Christ, being come and high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of a heifer sprinkled the unclean sanctifieth to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God? And for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead, otherwise it have no strength at all while the testator liveth. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool and a hyssop, and sprinkled both the book and all the people, saying, This is the blood of the testament which God hath enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkleth with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood is no remission. It was therefore necessary that the pattern of things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Christ has not entered into the holy place made with hands, which are the figures of the truth, but into heaven itself, now appearing in the presence of God for us. Nor yet he should offer himself often, as the high priest entereth into the holy place every year with blood of others. For then must he often have suffered until the foundation of the world. But now, once in the end of the world, he hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment. So Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and to them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. I would argue that what I just read would substantiate our point about the reference to the Old Testament. Would you guys agree or disagree with that?
Great.
That wasn't the particular one I was thinking of, but yeah, that would.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be a troll. First fruits, you won't understand LPP. Yeah, okay.
LPP, I dug into my psychology notes, and I try to keep them because, once in a while they'll drop some psychology term. Well, one thing I think he's suffering from, trying to figure out what it is, because it's really weird. It's a type of narcissism, which more specifically, it's a sign of those exhibiting the pretense of superiority while suffering from fragile self-esteem. Now, is that him or what?
I would agree, yeah. And I would argue that he also suffers from an extreme case of Dunning-Kruger.
Oh, I see Standing for Truth is active again. Don't anybody tell him that I just tore his whole endogenous retrovirus thing apart.
and hey, so Standing for Truth says, Hefe Casey at it again, LOL. Hefe, email me, okay? So email SFT, as I told you, and let's get some dates a couple weeks from now, and give me multiple dates that SFT is available, and we will set this up, and I will obliterate you. As long as you must be on camera. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you won't be on camera, we're not debating. If you will, let's do it. Clown shows. Anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any way that my virus theory thing that I thought up could be tested. I don't have the means, but
Ask Donnie. He may, if anybody around here knows, he probably would.
I can't even get Donnie to watch a PowerPoint I sent him.
Oh boy.
Well, I think that, personally, what I want to do is, I've actually been thinking of this pretty strongly, of creating basically going on tour and creating an investment fund from churches, specifically for the funding of research projects like what you just talked about, Stephen, as an example, right? Like, this stuff is extremely difficult to get funded in like a secular institution or from a secular source, because you can't come at it from that context, right? Like, I wonder if there's an alternative explanation than the conventional paradigm, right? So,
well, that wouldn't necessarily prove or disprove creation or evolution either. So they might do it if under the right circumstances.
They might, right? But then if the conclusion that is supported by the evidence, right, is different than the conventional paradigm, getting it published is almost impossible. If you're actually, you can say what you found, but as long as you're in your conclusion, you don't like question the conventional standards.
Right. As long as you don't say something like this disproves evolution, then it'll never get published.
Yeah, you've got to kiss the ring of Darwin. If you don't kiss Darwin's ring, it's hard
if it has nothing to do with Darwin, it might slide by. If it refutes Darwin, forget it.
No, I agree with you completely. Which is why I say I think when you actually look at the amount of capital that is needed to do some of this research, right? From the average person's perspective, it's a lot of money, but from a macro view, it's pennies in the big picture, right? Like, oh, these guys are running around fighting for, if I can get $1 million or $3 million, that's a gigantic for most of that's a gigantic funding round, right? Well, if you went and got, let's just think this is basic math, right? You went and had 500 churches all on board, right? And you raised minuscule amounts of money from a good chunk of the congregation.
Sort of like a mission.
Well, it ends up being ways, but you basically run it from a crowdfunding logic perspective. And we do this in startups all the time, right? This is well-established concepts. But you just apply that logic to the churches as the source. And then you do the cap raise. And then it's like, hey, we're going to be able to, for all of your kids who are trying to go into research right now, right? Because just think about how many parents whose kids have gone off to college and are getting brainwashed in one side, or if they are public about their religion, get fired, they can't get new grants. I mean, all that kind of stuff. They have to, hide under the radar. And you say, like, hey, how about this? How about we collectively pony up the money, and it doesn't have to be exorbitant, sums, but we just pony up the money, and then we fund our own, people that are of our own mindset. We fund our own research, because like 20 years ago, the genetic research was astronomically expensive, right? Now it's a pittance compared to what it was. Access to the data. Well, there's all these cloud the data is in the cloud now, right? You don't have to have extraordinary amounts of computing power and all stuff, because the computing power is elsewhere anyway. And you can go in, like, all these universities are hemorrhaging cash, right? Well, guess what? You can go and just pay to use their mass spectrometry machines and everything else. Like, you can go and use their stuff. You just pay them for it, right? Well, you have to go spend $20 million to buy the machine. You just like, oh, I want to run, XYZ tests and stuff. You go pay them for it. They're running around hoping they'll get that kind of business in order to help fund their other stuff, right? I'm talking about from the university level. So you just apply. All I'm saying is you supply business logic that would be the standard in business, right? You supply that to research. I don't know why this hasn't been anyway. Look,
okay, but going by that model, how would it benefit the church to find out that viruses are actually produced by our own DNA?
Well, the likelihood of there being massive implications in healthcare research, there's one right off the top, because that's already being discovered, right? So if you're going into the perspective, and the underlying piece of this too would be, you would be allowing research to be conducted under the auspice that we are created by God. There's a design, there's probably a purpose in it. Therefore, the likelihood of there being greater levels of success and discovery operating from that mental state increases the likelihood of massive discoveries. And then you can structure it from there's a variety of ways you can structure it. But you could also do it from you'd have
to be careful though, because as soon as you bring God into it to help those that want to research in a godly manner, the colleges will say, no, you can't rent the time on our equipment.
Well, maybe, but there's a big difference between what they will have operating under the umbrella of the university versus getting paid cold hard cash to do a test. That's not from something that's necessarily part of their university, right? That'd be like saying that I can't hire. I disagree politically with somebody that owns a machine shop. Therefore, I can't pay to rent. I can't go rent a some kind of machine from Home Depot, right? Because we disagree politically or something like that. That'd be the equivalent. And I'm not saying there wouldn't be some aspects where they might have a problem with it, but at the end of the day, money talks, bullshit walks, and that's just where it is. And most importantly, universities are having serious funding issues. I mean, big time. So if you're going to do it, it would be right now because they're having massive issues.
John, why is that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. Go ahead.
Why would colleges be having massive funding issues since they got all this money coming in from all these students that don't really belong there, which they didn't have before?
Well,
because they're greedy.
Well, multiple things. They blew up their budgets to such an extent that unless they continue to raise their tuition rates and maintain the level of students and get the same amount of grant money from the federal government and the state funds, then they're in deep doo-doo. And that's exactly what's happened. So enrollment has cratered. Federal and state funding has collapsed to levels way below what they had been. And universities were massively overspending. And
could they also be massively overstepped with all these crazy positions they created, which never had in the past?
Oh, well, that's definitely a problem. I mean, that's one of the points I'm making. Like
is that right?
Okay. That staffing you're referring to is one of those examples of like bloating the budgets.
Yes.
And, or they're not just budget, but like bloating their operating costs, right? And because when you actually think about it, and look at the math, the amount they're charging for tuition is not that, from a overall operating budget perspective, what the revenue from tuition doesn't really cover much. And the majority of it is coming from endowments and grants and all that kind of stuff, right? Which is why the universities now are beholden to both like the NIH, for example, and big pharma and all this kind of stuff. And they won't question anything that comes out because that's where all the money comes from. If they don't continue to, kiss the proverbial ring of the different oligarchy that, makes the issues the grant money, they're toast. Well, leading up to COVID as well. But I have a family member who used to be pretty far up the food chain of a major university on the finance side. That's why I know some of this stuff. But like the grants and like the money from the state and everything was just crashing big time. And this was before COVID. Okay. And so they were having to jump through all sorts of hoops. This is a big player. I mean, this is not some like little small, dinky university. I'm talking about a major university. Okay. And it's happening across the United States. And so, which is why I say in the relation to, why have they been starting to not outsource, but allow different equipment to be rented or to be, you can pay to have XYZ done under their equipment. So the reason for that is all these different departments were having to get creative with how in the heck are we going to stay open, because we only have, for easy math purposes, okay, we have $1 million for the entire year, and we're out of money by month 10 or month 9 or whatever. So they started getting things authorized to, hey, we've got these cool machines, can we get extra revenue from this to continue on, put that towards our budget? That got authorized, and so now it's a common tactic that's being used. Is the Hefe still talking trash in side chat?
You bet.
John, my wife was a public school teacher for a long time, 30-something years. And one thing she talked about was how when she first started teaching, they only had really a few people in personnel and admin in the school. Wasn't many at all. Like when I went to high school, we had like a secretary and a principal and a guidance counselor. I think that was about it. Well,
wow, you had a guidance counselor?
Oh yeah, we were a big school. We had almost 900 students.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I'm joking, but she said that by the time she left, they were almost running into each other. They had special needs people, reading specialists, a lot of reading specialists. They had just everything you can think of. They'd hired staff for, and they were just covered up with staff. And they kept raising the taxes for the school district. And she said one day it's going to blow up. It hadn't yet, but it's all this liberal, it's left wing stuff, this crazy stuff that they hire for now. Now, probably wasn't a bad idea to hire reading specialists, but I thought that people that come to school, I'm of the opinion that they should teach one way and not bring the best students down, but bring the poorer students or the weaker students up. But apparently they don't think that way anymore. When I went to school, if you failed a grade, you failed a grade. It was that simple. And if you didn't pass a couple of grades in a row, you were out. You go work.
Yeah, well, Bush's "leave no child behind" basically just meant shove them through.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah. Well, Thomas Sowell makes a big deal about that in one of his books and when in some of his interviews, where he says that I think his model that he talks about is one at Cornell, and when he was there, I think, but anyway, they would give, but they would allow entrance by race rather than by performance. Now, he said that some of the black students that came in there had some of the top scores in the nation. Okay, they could have went to University of Maryland and excelled, just been great. But then when they get to Cornell, everybody's up there. And a lot of them struggle and they eventually just give up college. So here's people coming in that had perfectly good career prospects, that the education system destroyed it, because rather than going strictly on scholastics, they started adding all kind of variables. And he gets into a lot of detail on that. He's not very happy with Thomas Sowell, by the way, is the man. he, he's one of the smartest people I ever heard. It probably the smartest, and he's
Yeah, you
very
know,
down to earth. Very
we could
down to earth.
we could
I'm
solve a lot of problems if we got rid of two things: the equity quotas and the whole human resources department.
What's a human resource? Oh, that's right. That's a new thing they added after I went to school.
No,
Well,
I'm talking about
when
in
you have
businesses.
oh yeah, you're so 100% right. The HR departments are ridiculous, and when you have like diversity and inclusion directors and stuff, it's like, okay,
It's crazy.
we have lost all semblance of rational thought here. In like, we're no. I tell you what, Martin Luther King Jr. must be rolling over in his grave on a just minute by minute basis. I mean, the whole, when we now have minority students successfully protesting in favor of segregation, like when their demand is to be resegregated, right? And we have people that are being hired or accepted or hired not based on the content of their character but on the color of their skin. We obviously, Martin Luther King Jr. is rolling over in his grave. I mean, it's his objective has just been completely twisted.
Yeah, I have personally had lots of experience with my white privilege being flat out told that they would love to hire me, but I'd have to be either a woman or black.
Well, you should have identified as one of those. What's wrong with you?
This was before you could do that.
Oh, oh, it's crazy. It's just absolutely insane. Everybody's went insane, and they're running a show too. That's
Yeah, it was also before I could before I found out that I was Jewish and could accuse them of being anti-Semitic.
oh wow, you missed out, huh?
Yeah, I missed out. Well, hey, when I was a kid, growing up through, you had to learn things and work your way up the ladder. And as you got older and more experienced, you were more respected and people listened to you and you got the better positions. And then when I finally got old enough to start getting into that place where I should be the one respected and getting the better jobs, everything flipped on its head, and it was young punks coming out of college that got all the good positions.
If only you had taken better greater advantage of all that. Yeah, I remember in college, I was standing in line learning about like Pell Grants and such, and I was told I would if I wanted to qualify, I would need to come back when I was 23, and then I might be able to get something. And then as I'm doing this, there was all these minority students who were getting approved, like stamps of approval on their applications. As I'm sitting there trying to figure out why this is, I'm watching at the desk next to me, folks getting approved for grants, and I'm like, hold on, I'm not eligible. I got to come back, not be a dependent of anybody, and I can't even reapply and have any chance of success until I'm 23. What? I was so pissed. I'm like, I don't understand this. How are they getting it? And
yeah, well, I chose the military route. When I got into the military, I was placed so high on the ASVABs that I had everybody trying to get me into the service. And I ended up going through the Air Force with a guaranteed career field in computers and electronics. I took the 6-year enlistment, and I was supposed to start out as an E3. I went down and, I got sworn in with the oath and whatnot. And then right after I got sworn in, they said, "Oh, by the way, your computer and electronics has been filled, so you no longer have that option." And I said, "Wait a minute, it was a guaranteed career field." "Well, I'm sorry, but all the slots are full now." I said, "Do we have different meanings of the word guaranteed here?" And they said, "Well, and since you don't have a guaranteed career field, you can't enlist for 6 years. You have to do the 4. I'm like, okay. And they said, "Well, then you'd have to start out as an E1 since you didn't have any of the other ones." And I said, "Well, then I don't want to go in." They said, "Well, you already signed the oath. You have no choice." So I ended up going to boot camp, starting as an E1, and I went from a guaranteed computer and electronics because my ASVABs are so high, to being offered, here's your choices. You can be a cook, a cop, or a vehicle mechanic.
Yeah, good old ASFAB. It's interesting how the ASFAB is very well, not always. Some like what you're describing happens, but very often it's very indicative of communism.
Well,
Like
I know I got really high scores on it, so I mean, it was no joke that they were after me because of how well that I did. But the thing is as soon as I got sworn in, the guaranteed career field disappeared. Now, how is that guaranteed if it disappears?
Well, you once you go under the oh man, I'm brain freeze here. What's the military law? It's the
UCMJ.
UCMJ. Yeah. Once you go into that UCMJ, baby, the standard concepts that you take as a civilian, those things evaporate.
This may be true, but the thing is guaranteed is supposed to mean guaranteed.
Not in the military, it doesn't.
Well, I agree with you. I'm saying, but not once you go into UCMJ, it doesn't. Means whatever the commanding officers decided at that point.
Yep. Technically, when you're into the UCMJ, you're no longer under the Constitution either.
Yeah,
no longer.
That's what I'm saying. So legally, like, it's all out the window. Yeah,
I was in the military, Stephen, and I really can't complain at all. I had a great time in the military. I had good jobs, saw the world. I can't complain about any duty station I had. They're all great. But
well, I only had one, and I can complain plenty because I got caught up in that whole Graham Rugman thing.
Yeah.
They kicked me out after 3.5 years to save the taxpayers' money.
Were you in under Clinton era? Drawdowns, or were you Obama drawdowns?
It was the Bush drawdowns.
Okay.
It was just before Desert Shield, Desert Storm 1 kicked off.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about HW.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't think you were. I didn't think you were old enough to be an HW. Okay, yeah, I got you. Yeah.
I'm 57.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then that HW would apply then. Okay, I got you.
I'd have my 30 years in and full pension by now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I tell you what, man. It's so interesting looking back now on how obvious it's becoming that HW was a globalist, and so was W, and just acting like they weren't. And I
don't think W even acted.
Well, true. At this point, it's like I don't think we've had other than Trump, I don't think we've had an America First president since Reagan.
No, and Reagan was only until he got shot. After that, he was kind of let me lay low so I don't get shot again.
Yeah. Well, can you believe they let his attempted assassin out of jail a couple weeks ago? Hinckley got out of jail.
Hinckley's for gun control. He figured it's a lot easier if his targets don't have guns. He is. I saw that. Well, I added the extra part, but he's coming. He's now an activist for gun control. People, wow! I can't believe our judicial system.
I guess he was one of them that shouldn't have gotten one then.
I think we should have saved the taxpayers a lot of money and bought a good piece of rope.
Yeah, well, you've heard about the whole LBJ JFK tie-in, haven't you?
I'm not sure. Yeah. I thought they hated each other.
Yeah, and not only that, but there's strong indications that LBJ was behind what happened to JFK.
Oh yeah, I've read those books. Yeah, in fact I have a whole database of just conspiracy books. I don't believe hardly any of them, but some of them make a lot of sense. I went in under LBJ, by the way, the tail end of his. I went in late. I was actually older than most people were going in during Vietnam. Somehow I missed out on it. So on the
Okay.
draft.
Since
But
we're kind of,
anyway,
I was going to say, since we're on the conspiracy theory vein there, Nixon, do you think he was involved in it, or do you think he got set up? Because
Nixon, I don't think Nixon was involved in anything. Even Watergate, I think that was all a setup.
that's what I'm talking about.
John Dean was the conspirator, and
Because
so he just pointed his finger at everybody else.
Because what was it? Was it Ford that took over for Nixon?
Yes, Gerald Ford.
He was the one that actually recommended, for the good of the country, that Nixon resign.
I didn't know that. I know he pardoned him.
That was part of the deal. For the good of the country, just go ahead and resign rather than force an impeachment.
Okay,
Well,
so
I tell you, Nixon was set up. Now, I didn't like Nixon at all. He gave us a lot of left-wing programs like the EPA and anyway, and he took us off the gold standard, which probably had to, but still, I don't think that was a good idea. I thought we should have figured out a way to make it stay. But he did a lot of crazy things that, like a leftist would do. But from what I understand, he was a very honest person.
Well, I think part of the reason why he took us off the gold standard is so that we could be put on the petro standard.
Actually, John explained that pretty well. I think John wasn't it the dictator of France or whatever it was in those days, sent a bunch of ships across the ocean full of money and wanted to buy our gold. Wanted to get paid in gold.
Well, he wanted to. No, he wanted to just. At the time, the banknotes were supposed to be certificates for the gold, and you should be able to swap it for gold anytime. And they showed up. We showed up with a ship stacked full, like a literal big old ship with nothing but dollar bills that are 20s or whatever, and demanded it to be traded, swapped into gold, and they couldn't do it.
There was no gold in Fort Knox.
Yeah.
We don't know if there's any gold in Fort Knox, and even if there is, chances are it doesn't belong to the United States anymore.
Yeah, nothing belongs to the United States anymore. We owe everybody.
I'm sure the banks own it now.
Well, at this point, okay, this is what gets me about the ignorance of the average American, right? If the GDP of the planet is about 84 trillion and the national debt of the United States is 31 trillion, let's just think about that for a moment. But then let's go a step further and look at the unfunded liabilities, which are no less than 165 trillion.
I read over 200 trillion.
Well, I've seen those reports too, but I usually go with the low one. Like whatever the lowest one is, that's when I go with. Just so, because it's so big at this point, right? Like 165, 250, 220, whatever. Either one, we can't pay it. So,
when we just decide to throw $60+ billion over at Ukraine to help them fight Russia, that's fighting Ukraine to protect the Russian citizens that we set up a government that is attacking, what's money?
Stephen, that $60 billion was not to help Ukraine. It's all a big crony. That's a crony capitalist capital of the world.
Yeah, well, I'm sure 60 billion was sent over, and probably at least 5 billion was kicked back.
No, I think more than that.
Well, okay. They still had to buy some weapons and whatnot, but I'm saying at least 5 billion.
Curiosity Girl says, "Who is chopping weed or racking up lines?"
Wait, what?
Curiosity Girl says, "Who is chopping weed or racking up lines?" You think somebody is like crushing up some coke? I'm assuming somebody's cutting something up over there. We're
did you hear that? Yeah, speaking of chopping weed and cutting up lines, did you hear I don't know exactly all the details, but it appears that when the president sold our oil reserves to China, it was part of a deal that Hunter got a kickback on or something.
No. You're pretty close. The oil was sold to a company that Hunter Biden invested in.
Oh, I
So
see.
he has an equity position in a company that is getting strategic petroleum reserves from the United States. I mean, you can't make it up at this point.
Well, what's really a lot of people don't realize is from the very first administration, the Washington administration, that's where the first crony capitalist showed up, and his name was Alexander Hamilton. If you read some of the shenanigans he pulled, it is absolutely unbelievable. And
Yeah.
so he was like the first crony capitalist, and then it went all the way through. Another really major league crony capitalist was Henry Clay, and then what the one turn. Daniel Webster used to be a very like a financial stingy. He really looked out for America. But then he turned and started getting jobs. I guess the banks offered him money or gave him jobs or something, and he became one of them. And of course, Lincoln was a major league crony capitalist, and it's been that way ever since. And now it's just like the whole DC. Everybody in DC is part of on the take.
Yeah, well, you heard about what went on with Jackson, don't you? I think it was Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson put a monkey wrench in their plans, and they didn't like it too much.
Well, no, the thing is where he did the Trail of Tears, where he kicked the Indians off all their land.
That was I remember that.
And then his friends were able to snap the land up for almost nothing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yes.
That sounds like something Lincoln would pull. He
the native. Well, Lincoln was trying to do the opposite. He was sitting. Have you ever heard of 40 and a mule?
I've heard that term. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the 40 acres and a mule?
Yeah,
Yep.
I've heard that. Yeah.
At first, it was 40 acres, and then they just realized that the U.S. Army had so many surplus mules, they tossed a mule in with it for plowing purposes. So it was 40.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So it was 40 and a mule that was supposed to be given to each black family that had been liberated. Of course, I think it was like in North and South Carolina near the coast, which was land that they really wanted to keep. So once Lincoln was assassinated, and I can't remember who came after Lincoln. It's too late at night.
Grant, wasn't it? Was it Grant?
No, I think it was somebody in between. I think it was the vice president at the time.
Oh, I see. Okay, go ahead.
Immediately, because he was a Democrat. Because back then, if the Republican won, the Democrat that ran against him became the vice president. Yeah. But he immediately rescinded all of that, kicked the blacks out, and gave the land back to the white people. So
I think I remember something about that. Yeah.
Technically, the Republicans have already paid reparations to the blacks. If they want reparations, go to the Democrats.
Well, you know what I was talking about with Lincoln. He was a high-powered railroad lawyer. He's given this image of living in a log cabin and all this stuff, but that is nothing like the life he lived before he became president.
Well, that's how he grew up, not how he lived.
Yeah, but I'm saying he was a high-powered railroad lawyer, and he did a lot of really shady things in Illinois before he became a congressman or whatever he became at first. And it was but one of the deals he made talked Illinois into doing or whatever was so bad that it set them back for a long time, and they passed a law to where this ain't gonna happen again. I don't care who you are. But another thing he did is he made friends with some railroad designer or engineer or whatever who told him the best place to invest in land for the railroad. Okay, because everybody knew eventually was going to build a railroad. Well, when Lincoln got in office, he made the depot, the connection point, on that same place right where he bought his land. And the Congress gave him the opportunity to choose wherever it was going to be. So it was just, anyway, he didn't live long enough to get rich off of it, but Lincoln was a a high tariff, national bank, big spender. Internal improvements is what they called it. Well, that was one of the major reasons for the Civil War, because the industry in the North weren't affected by the tariffs, but the cotton growers in the South were tremendously affected by it. It cost them a fortune. So they were really paying for whatever the government did. There's a lot of details in there. There's a lot of books on it, on tariffs leading up to the tariffs were always a sticky issue. The tariff of abominations in, I think it was 1820s. That almost caused Jackson to send troops into South Carolina. And he got cooler head because John C. Calhoun was, in fact, he said he wanted to get a rope and go hang John C. Calhoun or something like that. Well, but it was from a time of, I think James Madison, not James Madison, which one that came later? Tariffs started being about 1816, I think, maybe a little later. Tariffs started becoming a big issue because the North wanted the high tariffs and it hurt the South. And that was a sticky issue all the way up. Well, once Lincoln got elected, almost immediately, all the states started seceding from the Union. And that's the reason. A lot of people say it was over slavery, but Lincoln didn't give a rat's behind about slavery at first.
Slavery was a minor issue.
Yeah, in fact, he even said it in his inaugural address. But what he also said in his inaugural address, well, I'm paraphrasing, but if you don't pay your tariffs, right? If you don't collect tariffs at your ports, like at Charleston, and give it to the government, there'll be bloodshed. Read it really carefully. That's what he said.
Well, if you read the Constitution, income tax is illegal. The only way the government has to make money is two ways. One way is donations from the state, and the other way is tariffs.
Yeah, tariffs was the major.
Well, the states, as a general rule, did not donate to the government. So basically, the
problem was fairness. The states felt like they were funding all the industry in the North and the government, and they were. There's just no doubt about it. Are funding a major portion of the expenses, and that was from I think it started in 1816, but it was all the way through to Lincoln once he got elected. Now you can read about slavery in some of the secession documents from different states, but if you read them carefully, there's always somewhere in there something about the tariffs and whatever. It was really a big deal, really a major league deal, because they knew Lincoln came in. Once he came in, he was a big spender, and he was going to want a lot of tariffs, and he did. The South really didn't want to start the war, but they kept instigating it. And one of the things Lincoln did was he would not allow the delegates or the diplomats from the South, wouldn't even talk to them. There was a guy from Virginia, one of the congressmen or senators or whatever, state of Virginia, who talked to Lincoln right before the Civil War started, where the first shot was fired. What Lincoln had done is sent troops in there to resupply Montgomery or something like that. Well, that's when the shots were fired. Lincoln forced their hand.
Yeah, wasn't it Fort McKinley?
And no, I think it's Fort Sumter. But anyway, Sumter. When he was in that discussion with that Virginia congressman, he brought up constantly, like or several times, how are we going to get our money? How are we going to get our funds? And the congressman tried to assure him that if there was a war, it's going to take a lot more money. But the newspapers in the North had already figured out that the best thing to do would be destroy the South rather than let them succeed, because they would become the port of entry for all of Europe. And you understand what I'm saying? In other words,
Uh-huh.
the North would lose all the trade. They wouldn't get any tariff money at all. And
That's why the North blockaded the South.
Yeah, it was all about money. But once the war started going downhill, that's sort of, and they got lucky at Gettysburg. There were some major blunders by the South, but by making it about a touchy issue like that, which I think 90% of the country wanted to get, end slavery. By doing that, except obviously slave owners, but by doing that, he turned it into a moral issue rather than a money issue, and he really rewrote history right there on the spot by the Gettysburg Address. It's a lot. It's some really wild stuff if you read it. But you won't hear it. You won't hear from modern historians. There's a few.
Well, I think the biggest issue was that the states felt that their rights should supersede federal rights.
Well, that's exactly the way the Constitution was written.
Right.
The federal government only had a few. This is the way it's described by, I think, James Madison. Or maybe one of them. He said the federal government has few and defined powers, period. Okay.
Right.
And all other powers belong to the states and the people. Well, and that was actually enshrined into I believe it's the 10th Amendment, 9th or 10th Amendment. It says the power is not delegated now from the states, delegated to the federal government or prohibited by the Constitution, belong to the states and the people, period. But what the Congress have been doing all along is sort of nudging those right outside the boundaries, and that was the tariff issue. It was never intended to make one part of the country pay for another part of the country. And but there were other things they did too. It was unconstitutional for the federal government to build a road outside, So, and I think a couple of them actually put in for a constitutional amendment or whatever so they could do it. But then pretty soon that changed and they just started doing it anyway. And of course, to build roads, you have to, and it's always, I think one of the reasons the founders did that, because those roads always seem to benefit some high-powered person, like a congressman or something, crony capitalism. But it wasn't until Lincoln sort of rewrote the Constitution, not literally, but by force of guns, force of arms, that the government really exploded. Now, there was one president, and hardly anybody knows anything about him, that held it back temporarily. And he was actually elected twice, and there was a term between him, maybe two. I mean,
was that Harding?
It was Cleveland, Grover Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland.
He was a tightwad. He thought the federal government was out of bounds. He really probably one of the best presidents we ever had. But then it just been exploding ever since. The crony capitalism, it's everywhere now. Everything pay for play in Washington. All those people know each other.
Yeah, when's the last time we've ever seen a balanced budget?
Job to the media to, I'm sorry, what?
When's the last time we've ever seen a balanced budget? Now they don't even read it. They just vote on it without reading it.
Actually, gentlemen, it's not a question of when we have last time we have a balanced budget, which has been who knows when. What most people don't realize is we actually haven't had a budget. They do continuing resolutions. they're not actually passing formal budgets. It's just random authorizations for spending, but they're not actually doing budgets anymore. We haven't had a budget since before Barack Obama.
John,
They come up with these very creative ways around that. But
Yeah,
anyway.
I think it was Clinton's first term that we had a budget, and I don't think we've had one since.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't have. That was creative accounting. I'm pretty sure we didn't have a balanced budget.
Well, I didn't say it was balanced. I said a budget.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like formal budget. Yeah, it's great. Okay, so guys, I'm getting really tired, and
Me too, John.
It's my daughter's birthday this weekend, and I'm taking her to go get a pedicure in the morning. So I go to sleep.
Great.
But Iger has, before we wrap up, Iger has been here for a while. He's been very quiet. So Iger, say what you want to say, brother, and then we'll do a last round of words, and then we'll go to bed.
Oh, nothing, bro. Well, did you hear about the Georgia Guidestones going down? And then also CERN got fired up again. That was like two things. And I'm wearing a giant tree today. If you guys don't know about the Devil's Tower being a pre-flood giant tree, pretty interesting topic. And they're all over the world. It's pretty cool. But
I was aware of. Yes, I did know about the Guidestones or the Georgia Guidestones. Yes.
What do you think of it? Do you think it was? I got like, it was somebody, right? Like a normal person that went and did it because they had like a short clip of a car, but or was it them themselves that did it because that they bulldoze it right away? That's usually what you do with crime scenes. You go ahead and bulldoze them, right? So that's pretty suspect. And then the third one is some people say it's lightning, so it's almost like God did it. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it was the English tablet that was hit.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And a lot of tap dance, literally, in one of his music, much deeper.
Are we getting a feed? What's that in the background?
Ghostman.
Ghostman, I can barely hear you if you're talking.
oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, I have to go. Oh, bye.
I see you,
All right,
Ghostman.
Ghostman.
John, I got to go too, and I really appreciate it. Bye.
All right, have a good night, man.
You guys have a
Bye.
good time. See you, Steve.
You
See
too.
you, Iger.
See you then.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, so Iger, it is interesting to your point about it was the English version that got taken out. I don't think it was them. I don't think they did it. I would say they handled the demolition of the rest of it. I would say is obviously them, and I think it's interesting that so you have something blown up, but then you destroy the evidence from any kind of like investigation. That seems kind of strange.
That's what I'm
Seems
saying.
like-
That's why I feel like they did it. But
So I don't know. Well, no. See, I think about this though. Why would they do it? Unless the only thing I can think of is if they did it was to force people to actually recognize what they're planning on, right? Because the very first line on the stone was reduce the population.
Yeah.
To 500 million.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Maybe too many people are waking up for that. Like last year, I remember seeing, I don't know, like 4 or 5 YouTubers go up there and just videotape it and take, image like videos of the inscriptions and kind of break down. There was a hole that pointed to the North Star Polaris, which was drilled through it. So that was pretty interesting as far as geocentrism goes. And,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You do know that in the Bible, in the end times, half the Earth's population is going to die.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There's supposed to be 2 big events. One of them wipes out a quarter of Earth's population. And then the next one wipes out a third of the remaining. Well, that's another quarter. So half the people on Earth are going to die within that 7-year period.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm with you.
And
One is
I
one is the meteor, and one is like one of the angels drops a vial or something like that. I got to.
Well, no. The fourth of it's from the is it the seal? It's the seals. It's the horseman, right? So I've
also
people have heard me talk about this multiple times, but I think we are directly in between the red and the black horse.
I'm with you on that, bro.
And everything is lining up for what Stephen was talking about in relation to what kills the fourth of the world. It's famine, disease, crazy animals, and what's that thing? Famine, disease, something else. But anyway, I mean,
Poisoned
we're-
water.
Yeah.
is it
poison
is it
water.
poison water? No, I don't think there's poison water at that one. Is there?
Well, there's when wormwood falls, it's supposed to poison.
Yeah, but that's later though. That's not the black horse. And
That's not
the
on
black,
Revelation
the
6.
black and the pale horse kind of like so. Oh, sorry. The pale horse is where everybody dies. The black horse is when the economies collapse and food vanishes, and then the pale horse rides directly after that, and people die of starvation, of disease, and wild animals, and there's something else. Let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, what does it say? A penny for a measure of wheat?
Yeah, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. Okay, so I got it pulled up. I'm going to read it real quick. It's Revelation 6, by the way, folks. Verse 5. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." And then right after that, and when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the world to kill with sword, with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the field. I mean, I would say that we're perfectly lined up for that.
And what would make the beasts of the field go crazy?
That's a good question.
It wouldn't happen to be the aluminum that they're spraying into the air to combat global warming, would it?
I could see that happening.
It could be the barium aluminum lithium that we're getting sprayed with every day, plus the combination with the frequencies that those things go haywire or they fall into the wrong hands. I mean, I trust AT&T and T-Mobile with my life, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but when it says a measure of wheat for a penny, a measure is how much you can hold in 2 cupped hands. And back when that was written, a penny was a day's wages.
Yep.
So a double handful of wheat would run, 15 times 8? That's $120?
Yeah.
$120 for a double handful of wheat?
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's an expensive loaf of bread right there.
You betcha.
Yeah, that's why I tell people. That's why I was earlier when we were talking with Sunflower, and I was talking about like, dude, just go to the store and buy yourself some stuff. Like, you have to go crazy. Don't have to like go full scale prepper, but like, go buy some stuff. You're buying food, buying long shelf life food, and you know what? Hopefully, we're all wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And I've just misinterpreted. I'm, giving into the fear mongering one. I'm hoping that is the case.
Hey, I'm with you, bro.
Be able to admit, like, hey, you know what? I, let myself get freaked out. I'm sorry, yeah. But you know what? I'm buying food. So that, guess what? If that doesn't happen, I'm just not gonna have to go to the grocery store for a while. Like that's the.
Are you eating the food?
Risk, that's the risk proposition, right? No, I'm saying if the like a lot of the stuff that I'm buying, I'm not planning on eating it. I'm storing it, right? I'm buying it for the reason of I'm hoping that
economy collapse.
The way I look at it, the way things are going and the way the math looks, if we don't have a collapse pretty soon, then I don't know. All of my knowledge of economics, history, and obviously also in this case prophecy as well, but everything about economic history says that we have to be going into collapse. Like we have to be. There's no way around it. Historically.
I think everybody agrees with that, bro. Like
so the probability of, and again, as people say, like it might not be as bad for us. We might in our first world state, maybe we will. But if the dollar loses reserve currency status, we're screwed. I mean, we're screwed big time. And we will be, to Steven's point, we will be spending I mean, heck, it could be Weimar Republic level of, $1 billion marks for a loaf of bread type thing, like.
Well, look at what happened in Venezuela.
Yep. Heck, and people forget that Venezuela was it Venezuela?
They were richer than the United States.
Yep, the per capita, yeah. And now they're like literally, dumpster diving for food to survive. People are starving to death and they're eating their dogs.
They ate all the zoo animals.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. We're going to be in deep doo-doo. I've been trying to like convince my ex to cause she lives in some land, and I've been like trying to like convince my daughter, like, hey, do you think it'll be fun to take care of some chickens? Because I'm like, I've been trying to like, I've been offering like, so I'll buy the chicken coop, I'll pay for the feed, I'll buy the chickens, like just put them on your property and let my daughter's name.
How old's your daughter, bro?
On the 10th. Well, she's almost 12.
Oh, I thought you said her property. I'm like, man, she's a good investor.
I think he said his ex's property.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
My daughter lives with my ex, and I'm like, I've been trying to, but she's an idiot. I mean, just okay. Anyway, I've been trying to like come up with a way to like get my daughter excited about it, so that
she's at 8.
I can just buy it, and then when the bad times happen, even if she doesn't realize it, that's why I'm wanting to get the chickens, right? Like, you'll have them on your property and you'll have eggs, and when they get older, you can eat the chickens, kind of thing. Like, if it gets that bad, they'll be there. And worst case scenario, my daughter learns how to like take care of something and take responsibility. I mean, that's like, oh my goodness, horrible win-win proposition there,
Yeah, that's a good suggestion too, bro. Like somebody else told me that if you have chickens, you get quite a bit of eggs out of them, as opposed to like, I've been gardening, and it's you're not always successful with every tomato plant or whatever. Not everything produces as much as you think it would, and it's only enough.
Especially when the rabbits get it.
Well, the chickens could be a problem with that. You're gonna have to have a fence around the garden or something if you're trying to grow stuff, because the chickens.
Well, the chickens are caged. I wasn't allowed to have them free range. This isn't our property.
Yeah.
Besides that, we had a fox show up, so fortunately they were caged. And more recently, we've had a bobcat in the area.
It sounds like you got some natural defenses in case any army tries to come your way, bro. Then bobcats might be all right.
Yeah, I think they'd just be poor defenseless kitty cats unless they get aluminum in their brains.
Oh, that's true. It might turn against you.
Well, I'd say so I've got a grow tower in my house for like lettuce and a couple different things. But that sucker's inside my house. So
yeah, but 90% of the stuff you grow in the grow tower has very little nutrition value.
Well, true. You can grow tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff in them too. But I agree with you from the macro view. I'm saying like a lot of the vegetables that get eaten alive by rabbit, like lettuce, for example. Like, let's get real. Let's not leave the lettuce out there to get eaten.
Actually, they destroyed my carrots.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I planted 2 long rows of carrots, and they ate the tops off some of the beans. They ate a couple of the peas. Didn't seem to like them much, but the carrots pretty much disappeared.
Well, them carrot tops are good.
I think they pulled them out of the ground or killed them because they're not growing back.
Oh man,
Zach's making a good point about how cows are. I mean, I would agree that if cows were an option, it would be good to have a cow. I agree.
How much land you gotta have to have cows though, man? Like that's
well, it depends how many you have. You have 1 or 2. You gotta, I would imagine a couple. Probably, I don't know. Cows probably what, an acre and a half, maybe. I don't know. I think it's an acre a cow. I remember hearing one time. I think it's an acre a cow. But and I agree. There's a lot of potential, things with cows that might go, with chickens to go wrong. But from a ease of investment perspective, I mean, heck, you can buy freaking 30 chickens 10. Like Tractor Supply, you can get 10 chicks for $30. It's like,
we didn't pay that much.
Price has gone up, but I'm saying like that's not bad from a macro point of view.
Yeah.
Man, I spent $30 on something that eventually.
Yeah, we got them for Easter, and I think we got 5 of them for like $9 or something like that.
Yeah, it probably depends where you live. If you live in like a city, you're gonna pay more money for chickens. If you live in a rural area, you probably get some free ones. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but I
Of
mean,
course, I
also,
live in Maine. It's the oil that's scaring me.
Get you a distiller, bro. I saw a guy on YouTube making ethanol. Like all he did was kept distilling the freaking alcohol until it got to like 80 proof, and then he used it to run his car.
I don't own a working car. What I'm worried about is being able to fire up the furnace in the winter.
mm-hmm. Yep, especially up in Maine. Hey, listen, Iger, I know you're in Florida, so your knowledge of cold is none. But,
I don't know how you guys do it, bro.
I mean, for you, like I don't think you can possibly freeze to death in Florida. I mean, it's
No,
like not
you
even.
can't.
I mean, there's
No,
been
but
snow. I think snow has been in Florida like once, in like the last 40 years, something like that. But
yeah,
the up north, this is the same thing with with what's going on in Europe. Like they've begun. They authorized landlords to throttle the heat in huge apartment buildings now because they're running out. And I'll tell you what, Europe is totally toast. The implosion this winter is going to be brutal. It's gonna suck here, but it's gonna be real bad in Europe because basically I think it's now 60% of the gas is no longer coming to Europe. I mean, it's like shut down. They're not getting it. They don't
how do
expect
you
to
make
get it back.
gas anyways? How do you make natural gas? Like I was thinking about it. I've seen people like stick basically any debris from your yard, anything that's alive, and add some type of chemical to it into like a sealed container, and they just let it sit for like 2 weeks, and then it turns into natural gas.
It's bacteria that causes it to ferment. And in the fermentation process, it produces methane, which is natural gas.
All you need is this bacteria. Like, where do you get the bacteria from? Like,
Well,
where would you get it from naturally?
Cow dung.
So speaking of methane, I am just blown away at all of the environmentalist groups who are actively trying to keep cows from farting. All that methane. It's like, let's kill all the cows because they fart methane. It's going to be the end of the world. I'm like, really?
Well,
So
you know how they're putting the tubes and putting it into the things, the backpacks? Well, that's so they can use it for natural gas later.
Wait, Steven, so you're saying all I need is like some branches and some dung and just let it sit for a couple of weeks and that'll turn into natural gas?
Well, grass clippings and whatnot would probably work a lot better than branches.
Right. Okay, yeah, like the leaves and stuff, yeah.
But the thing is that you would have to have it in a sealed container so that you could get the gas that accumulates.
Correct. Yep. And then just drill the hole at the top and then just let that thing do its magic. Hook up a couple of hoses to my gas stove and I'm good to go.
All right, boys. It is.
Well, you need an inlet for oxygen too, though.
Oh man! All right, I'm gonna have to do some more research on this.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Good night, LPP. Thanks for letting me on, Steven. Nice to meet you, bro. Good luck out there. Thanks. Probably to get crazy. Everybody in the chat. God bless y'all. Jesus loves you, even if you don't believe in Him. And yeah. Good night, y'all. I'll catch y'all next time.
See you.
All right. Take care. All right. You want to go ahead and wrap it up or just close it?
I'm wrapping up. Yeah. You have any last words you want to say before we?
No,
close?
I think I've said everything.
All right. Well, folks, we've covered a lot of stuff tonight. We didn't really talk much about the debate because, well, let's just be honest, the debate was But as you contemplate the other things we discussed about our survival, the macro view, eschatology, is it the end of the world? What's the likelihood of things going bad, whether or not it is the end or otherwise? I hope that you will use the critical thinking skills given to you by our Creator, and ultimately, whatever conclusion you reach about your actions, your intent, your future expectations, that those conclusions will be logical, plausible, and probable. Have a good night, everybody.